Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at spacedoutradio.com, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Game on! Game on! Game on!
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
The password is...
Alright.
Okay, seriously, what's with the pointies?
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
Seriously, Dave? Really?
Hi, Chloe. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Captain, take your seat on my left. It's time for takeoff.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, start, 2, 1, boost ignition, and liftoff.
Just to be there with you, and I still trip over my feet, and my heart still skips a beat. I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Space Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride wherever you are on this fine planet we love to call Earth. We are live right here, right now in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North on this Thursday night, early Friday morning if you're on the East Coast. Let's welcome in everyone listening in at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, the Renegade Talk Radio, and on Revolution Radio as we do this thing every night of the week, rocking in and out of every show thanks to our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, do me a favor, give us a follow on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. How about clicking on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show? Give it a like. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find us on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in you, the valued listener, taking part in the chat rooms. We do not take callers on this show, so if you want to participate, make sure your questions are in capital letters. If you're in Revolution Radio's chat room, on Spreaker, on the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club, or if you're on Twitter, Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I'll get to your questions and comments right there as well. If you haven't gone to our website and signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club yet, I think it's time for you to do that. We're going to do a draw tomorrow night for a lovely prize. When you win, for just $5 a month, we're going to send you some swag because we want to give back to you. We're also going to give you a special posting section on our website and much more. Hey, when you go to our website, you can also read up on my latest blog. It is on Bigfoot this week. Check out Eric Markham's SOR Spacewire for your latest and weird news. If you've had a sightline that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Mike Schmidt, our intrepid researcher, is waiting for you and your story. Want to welcome everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We are live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. Hi, my favorite city in the world. How you doing? And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. The realm of cryptids is a strange one, with sightings and experiences by thousands of people happening all over North America. And when it comes to cryptids and the paranormal, the unfortunate part of that saying is, the proof is in the pudding. You know the saying. Well, the unfortunate part about it is, especially to the skeptics and the five senses people, where's the proof? We have some brilliant investigators in the field, like tonight's guest, Jason Sudbury, who is actually one of the original speakers of Bigfoot that we had on this show already 2 years ago. Jason's a stand-up guy, straight to the point. How can he not be? He dives with sharks. He's tough as nails, and he, like many others in this field, is striving to find those hidden answers of the cryptid world. One of the other interests that Jason is having, though, is how all of this seems to have a connection to the paranormal. What gives with that? Ghosts and Bigfoot tied together? Doesn't make any sense, does it? But there are now a few investigators starting to look into this taboo who believe the two are somehow intertwined. Jason Sudbury, it's been a long time, my friend. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing?
Doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back.
And it's great to have you with us, too, especially... You're a grandpa now. You got this beautiful little girl, your little bundle of joy, the apple of your eye, who will never go a day unspoiled when Grandpa's around. Congratulations to you and your family on the little addition to the Sudbury household.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, she is the apple of my eye. That's definitely for sure. We love her more than anything in the world, and of course, I do have the ability now, being a grandparent, to spoil her rotten. So I'm doing just that.
You know what? I'm sure she's going to love it, and, well-deserved, my friend. Well-deserved for the happiness and the expansion of your family with your beautiful baby granddaughter. I'm very happy for you and your family, especially, I guess, for all of us as well from the Spaced Out Radio land. And, you've been a very big supporter of this show, my friend, and I do want to recognize that. I mean, you allow us to post our nightly shows in your groups on Facebook. You're a very active social media guy. We really appreciate that, because when you're building a show like we are, Jason, we need people like you who see the value in this programming, who are there to help us out and say, you know what, you got something good. You can advertise that for free on our page. And I got to tell you, man, I thank you for that. It really is a blessing for us that you see what we are doing and working hard and trying to get the right answers out there each and every day doing this. So thank you so much for allowing us to do that as well.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's not a problem. I really appreciate you saying that, and anything I can do for you in the show, I'm there for you. I really, what you do is great. You're a real stand-up guy, just like you said about me. You're a super stand-up guy, and I think a lot of you and the show, and I know the listeners do too.
Well, we can't do it without guests like yourself, my friend. So, Jason, the one thing I like about you, and I'm going to continue the love in here for just a couple of minutes here, but the one thing I love about you, bud, is that in a way, what we do with Space Out Radio and what you do is quite similar. You know, and why it's similar is because you do things kind of rogue. You do things on your own. You're trying to find your own answers. You don't want influence from the outsiders. You want to go in there and you want to find what you are doing on a personal basis. This is personal to you. Much like this radio show is very personable to me. I've been asked to join other networks and, you know, pay this much, pay that much, and I don't do it. I do everything for our listeners and what's best for them, and in return, what is best for this show. Why have you decided, in all of your years of researching, to kind of be that rogue person who investigates without a real big team or a big name behind you?
I guess the main reason, I mean, so many people, anything dealing with the paranormal, whether it be UFOs, Bigfoot, ghost, there's so many preconceived notions. You've usually got two sides to every story. You've got the believers, you've got the skeptics, but inside of those you have other branches and divides, and you can, it's so hard. You can become overwhelmed with a certain mindset, and it can actually blind you from seeing other things. And I mean, that's something that I try not to do. You've got certain people that are in the mainstream that, you know, have a big name in certain fields in paranormal, and people try to follow them and ride their coattails. And what they do is they don't look outside the box, I guess is the best way to say it. You know, they say, okay, this guy's been doing it for 20 years. You know, here's his theory, here's his opinions. They jump on the bandwagon. And although they're, you know, writing books and so forth, that doesn't mean, you know, that they're correct. And a lot of times, I guess you'd say you can put blinders up and you don't continue to research and see what's really out there. Because actually, to be honest, in anything in the paranormal field, I mean, nobody really has the answers. Let's be honest. Nobody knows. But a lot of people just I guess just the best way to put it is just become blind to the truth, because, I mean, the truth's still out there. And I know that sounds cliche from the X-Files, but I mean, it is true. I mean, nobody really has the answers. And until there's a positive answer to all of them, there's no sense to stop looking for the truth and to see what's really out there, because, I mean, who knows? There's infinite possibilities to these things, you know?
So to reintroduce you to our audience, because Jason, literally, when you were on our show last, we were having maybe 50 people live listening. Now we're over 130,000. We've changed a little bit around these parts, and there's a lot more people listening intently around the world. I would love to reintroduce you on what got you into this whole cryptid field.
First, congratulations on the amount of listeners you have now. I want to give you a big shout out for that. I'm very proud of what you've done and how the show's doing. As far as myself personally, I would have to say my first experience probably was dealing with a UFO. As far as cryptids and Bigfoot, I would say probably, of course, I'd heard stories as a young man. But actually, my uncle lives in Oregon, and I can remember him telling me stories of things that he had seen and he had heard. And I guess that really piqued my curiosity at a young age to really start looking into it, you know, because a lot of people say, hey, you know, it's a good campfire story, such and such. But when you've got a relative that, what at that point in time to me was very conclusive evidence, I mean, it just piqued my curiosity to think, you know, what else is out there, you know? And a lot of people shun it and don't want to talk about it, but let's just be honest. I mean, we've all had some type of experience, whether it be, you know, like maybe a ghost visitation or a light in the sky or a noise in the woods camping. I mean, some people just write it off and say, you know, it can't be possible. And then there's, you know, people like myself and you that are open-minded and say, you know, that's just something to this. And you just continue to go with it, and you just dig and dig. And I guess it's kind of like an addiction. You just really can't ever, you know, get your fill of it. And it just kind of consumes you, and you just keep going.
When you had that first experience with a UFO, what was going through your mind? Did you believe what you were seeing, or was it just something of just sheer amazement and shock, like, wow, there it is, man, there it is?
I guess the main thing that really caught my attention that night is that my parents were there and my best friend's parents were there, and it was after a Dixie Youth baseball game, and there were several other people, adults there, that actually saw the lights. Excuse me. And if I guess the adults hadn't have brought it to my attention because they were the first to see it, and of course, I'd heard stories of UFOs even at a young age, but it was low enough and not just a light in the sky to where the adults actually, I could see a little bit of fear and some curiosity in them, and it drew their attention enough to where, us young kids actually looked at it. And I got to think about it. I was like, if my parents are looking at this going, what is this? Something's not right. This is strange. I vividly remember that, looking up and going, what is that? At the age, of 9, 10 years old, and you've got people that you look up to, mentors and parents that are looking in the night sky going, hey, something's up with this. It stuck with me.
So then you hear this whole mystery of Bigfoot. And that just opens up another door, because I'm sure you can agree, my friend, that the one thing that we can all agree on in this field, if there's anything that's unifying about the paranormal, is you open that first door only to see 10 more doors. And behind each of those 10 doors is another 10 doors. So when you opened up that Bigfoot door, did you think that it was going to lead to a lifetime of research?
I would have to say probably at first, probably not. But my mindset on that changed pretty quickly. I would say within probably a year of actually really delving into the Bigfoot mysteries, I would think that it actually caught my attention as much. I've always probably, I guess my first love would be UFOs, but over the years, I would say Bigfoot probably has equaled that, if not surpassed it. And the reason being, with UFOs and ghosts, I mean, let's just be honest, yes, there's great convincing evidence, but there's so many questions with some of it, where with Bigfoot, some of the tracks and some of the evidence there is just, I mean, even now, the mainstream scientists and stuff are now coming around to say, this is a possibility, whether it's paranormal, whether it's the missing link, or call it whatever you want to, but there's some really, really super good, compelling evidence that Bigfoot, whichever realm you want to put him in, exists, and so many honest, down-to-earth, good people, law enforcement, I mean, see and have proof of this, and some of the proof is just, I mean, there's no way you can deny it.
Well, I got a question coming right early on here from the Revolution Radio chat room from SJ. And they are asking, Jason, have you ever, in all of your adventures, met up with an albino creature? Apparently they met up with an albino dolphin offshore, and it stayed with her for 20 minutes.
I personally have not. I have heard of, you did say dolphin, correct, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know they exist. There's a lot of very compelling evidence, speaking on Bigfoot, of white Bigfoot creatures. And I think one of the best cases, and I actually do not remember exactly when or where this happened, I think it was in upstate Washington, but there was an actual white Bigfoot that was seen by 3 different sets of people within about a 4 or 5 mile radius within a couple of hours. And it's one of the better cases, or better evidence cases I've seen or heard of. And it was actually an albino, supposedly a completely white Bigfoot, supposedly like the Yeti from the Himalayas, but it was here in the States. So it's not out of the realm of possibility by no means.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see one of those albino Bigfoot. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. I don't know if they're out there, but they must be. I know here in British Columbia, they have what they call the spirit bear on the west coast. I'm going to say it's pretty much equal to where I am in the province, but you got to go towards the ocean. And they're not albino. They're a black bear species that is actually white. And I believe there's around 500 of them in the world, and they only congregate and breed in this one area of British Columbia. And they are hard to find, and they are difficult to get around. You know, I've never been to the area. You have to go there by boat or plane. You can't drive there. And I'll tell you, the people who say they see these spirit bears, they say that it's quite an enlightening and enchanting experience. And I'm sure in a different way, Jason, with all of your adventures that you go on, from diving in the ocean with sharks to going to look for Bigfoot, you're always looking for that enlightening, engaging experience, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So when you're looking for that, what are you looking for?
Let's see. As far as in the cryptid, I'm kind of like you on the albino Bigfoot. I think that would definitely be a career high to find an albino Bigfoot, just for the simple fact that in your area, in my area, like you're saying with the spirit bear, most people are thinking, you know, this creature should be brown or reddish. And to give you an example, here where I live, of course, I don't know, most of the listeners are probably familiar with the melanistic trait of black panthers, and a lot of people tell you that black panthers, you know, don't exist unless they're in captivity, and I can attest to the fact that I've actually, here where I live, have seen a black panther. So I would like to say, yes, an albino Bigfoot would probably be a career highlight.
Do you think they're out there?
I do. I really do. I think they are. I think nature in itself, and or the paranormal. We all know the paranormal can produce some spectacular things. I think some of it may be in what the actual. I think it's, you can have two people seeing possibly the same thing but see it different. Now, why the creature would manifest itself possibly maybe to one person in like a white fur, and then someone else see it an hour later and see it in brown. I mean, that is the paranormal in itself. It's weird. You can't explain it. That's the mystique about it.
Absolutely. For the people who don't know what you investigate, my friend, is it just Bigfoot, or are you after other creatures as well?
Dave, I have explored and investigated everything from Mothman to UFO. As far as cryptids, the chupacabra is not off limits. I know a lot of people laugh at that now. You know, at one point in time, it was a very hot topic, and a lot of people say, "Oh, you know, it was just people in poor areas that, you know, saw things, were wanting attention." Let's be honest, to get off the cryptids just a little bit, but I mean, could it be a government project gone wrong? Of course. I mean, Plum Island, there's so many different possibilities out there. I'm open to anything. I've done Mothman, the Flatwoods Monster, the Kelly Hopkinsville incident, which a lot of people may not know about. But I mean, most people think of UFOs and aliens as grays, or you hear of reptilians. The Kelly Hopkinsville incident were small creatures with pointy ears with 3 claws for fingers. And the police there, actually the family that reported it, people now laugh about it, but at that point in time it was taken seriously enough that Army officers were sent from Fort Knox and Fort Campbell to go investigate. So something apparently happened, but if you look at the report of what the creatures look like, most people would laugh it off and say, "Oh, come on, you know, there's no way." But you know, there's enough compelling evidence to me that that's a very strong case to this day.
Well, let's get into some of these then. Since we're here, we might as well talk about some of these. In your area of the United States, and I'll let you describe where you are, what kind of Bigfoot are we dealing with here?
What we have, I'm in Tennessee. I'm in West Tennessee, which is close to the Missouri border. We actually, the latest report of a Bigfoot we had here was in a place up towards the Tennessee River called Natchez Trace, and a hunter had reported it. I think it was about 6 years ago, which it's pretty flat where I'm at. We do have a lot of woods, but as far as Bigfoot territory, what most people think about where Bigfoot would be, it probably wouldn't qualify as a good place to look. But a lot of people don't understand, if you look and research Bigfoot, the main thing where the most of the sightings are with Bigfoot has to do with rainfall. That's why a lot of people, you know, in upstate Washington and places like that, lots of rainfall. If you look through certain parts of the United States, you don't see a lot of Bigfoot sightings. And over the years, investigators have found out if you have X amount of inches of rainfall per year, you have more Bigfoot sightings. Now, I'm about 300 miles west of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And I will be going there the end of this month. But we have a lot of sightings, and a lot of people don't know this, but we have a lot of Bigfoot sightings, and they've really, really increased in the past 5 to 10 years. But we have a lot. What we typically deal with is the standard Bigfoot, conical shaped head, reddish brown fur, the standard Bigfoot height. We have had several really, really, really good sightings. Of course, footprints, Casper prints and stuff like that had some very convincing ones. Unfortunately, we haven't had any that produced dermal ridges like some of them have, but I'm still keeping my fingers crossed for that.
Do you find, being in Tennessee, that there is a lot of Bigfoot sightings annually? How was it for you in 2016?
It was actually a pretty good year. 2014 produced more sightings. A lot of our sightings, and this goes back to the paranormal UFO connection, a lot of our sightings in this area do coincide with bright lights in the sky. We actually haven't had any where, and this happens quite a bit if you investigate it enough, Bigfoot has actually been seen coming out of UFOs, and we haven't been lucky enough to have anything like that, or if there have been any, they haven't been reported. We have a lot of Bigfoot calls and sounds, which a lot of people laugh off and think, you know, hey, anybody could be out in the woods. There have been several good recordings that have been, you know, looked at by professional people that actually can you know, look at stuff like it and analyze it. And there's some convincing evidence of some very strange sounds that have pretty much been said, you know, that did not come from a human vocal cord.
What did it sound like, my friend?
I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. I guess the best way I could say, have you, I don't know if you've heard this, tigers, they say tigers in India actually, or tigers in general, actually can make a noise that actually basically can stun prey. It was similar to some tiger sounds that I've heard, only a little more, I wouldn't quite say human, but guttural maybe is the best word to use for that. It was convincing enough that every time I've listened to it, it still gives me chills. So, I mean, I can leave it at that. Is if you were in the woods at night, if I was in the woods at night and I heard it, I probably would be looking for my sidearm just for the sake of having it. It was something that, if it was a hoax, somebody put a lot of time and effort into it. Let me put it that way. It sounded like an actual animal that, in my opinion, was either trying to communicate with another animal of its same kind, or was basically saying, hey, you're getting a little close to my area, you need to back off.
You know what? When I heard my Bigfoot incident down in the lower mainland of British Columbia, it came literally seconds after we had seen some pixelation behind us. Now, the First Nations in my area, Jason, they believe that Bigfoot is a shapeshifter. I realize that doesn't I realize that doesn't go along with the code of scientific ethics in that area. But the fact is, it actually made me think that there's something to this. So we saw the pixelation, continued walking. 30 seconds later, we heard this roar that sounded like an animal screaming in pain mixed with a tiger's roar, as you would put it. And the weird part about that is, I don't know if you got this when I got it, The animals in the area, whether it's birds, whether it's cattle in the area, whether it's goats in the area, they echo. And the one thing that we notice about the roar is it didn't echo. Did you notice that as well?
I did, and when you spoke of pixelation there, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I was going to bring it up at some point tonight. Are you familiar with Bruce Maccabee, the optical physicist that worked for the Navy?
Absolutely, he's been on this show.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you're probably familiar with David Paulides, the missing 411. His wife, Jan, Bruce Maccabee's wife, Jan, are you familiar with her incident in the deer stand that happened a while back and the picture she took?
No, I am not.
Well, speaking of pixelations, very weird circumstances. She was deer hunting, and I think it was bow hunting in Ohio, and she had an older model BlackBerry phone that shoots in whatever pixelation it is, and it was verified by Verizon that this phone only shoots, and the manufacturers, it shoots in this like 400 by 500, and that's it. She noticed that everything in the woods got very, very quiet. So for some reason, she stood up in her deer stand or got her phone and took a picture. And of course, like I said, Bruce, he's an optical physicist. He knows all about photography. She took a picture with her cell phone, and it's called the Predator picture, and it's circulated over the internet. And of course, there's believers and non-believers, but being that Verizon's backed her up and Bruce's credentials, it's very, very, look into it, check it out. It's very, very strange. You can Google it. It's the Predator photo by Jan Maccabee. Very, very intriguing that you mentioned that pixelation. It's very, very, very convincing evidence to back up what you just said.
Well, the funny part about it is that's what made me start to realize that there is a little bit more to this creature, a little bit more supernatural than what we originally think, at least in my opinion. I thought upright human being that maybe just missed that chromosome to help it evolve in the evolutionary cycle that has become mankind. I didn't really know or understand, but the more you listen to the First Nations legends around my area, especially everybody in the Bigfoot world knows about Harrison Hot Springs, which is it's like Bigfoot Central in British Columbia.
Yes.
And you don't go around Harrison without seeing a statue of Sasquatch or Sasquatch campground, Sasquatch mini golf. Everything there is promoted around the Sasquatch because there are so many sightings around that area. But, nonetheless, the legend seems to be very true in this area. Yet, Jason, we have hundreds of people who are investigating this creature across North America, maybe even thousands who are investigating, who are trying to take this so-called scientific approach. And I have no problem with science. I think I would love to see science actually come out and say this creature is real, whatever it is. But I have a really hard time after doing this show for a couple years now and talking to literally dozens of Bigfoot researchers. I have a very hard time understanding, let me put it that way, that they are refusing to look into any possibility of a supernatural claim without even researching it. They've already nixed it from their list, saying, oh, that's not possible, we're dealing with a hominid, or we're dealing with Nephilim, or we're dealing with Gigantopithecus, or a relative of the great ape. Okay? We hear this all the time. How can we bring the science into Sasquatch research if we're already closing doors and using opinion as fact?
Exactly, and what you said, for a long time, that's exactly what I thought. My answer to a lot of people were, when they would say, what are your conclusions so far? First thing I would say, basically, it has to be Gigantopithecus. Over the years, I just don't think that's the case. I really don't. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, one of the main things is people say, if there's one, there has to be more than one. There has to be enough for a breeding population. There has to be food for them. Well, that sounds great. everybody goes that far, and then they say, well, then where's the body? Of course, if you've ever spent time in the woods, you've hunted, you understand that, a deer dies, and in, 2 or 3 days, there's basically nothing there. But it's not just that. I mean, Bigfoot has been seen just to physically, and this is not, you spoke with the First Nation, the Bigfoot just vanishes. And this is not something that just a lot of people say, it's the Native Americans, they have myths and legends and, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, people now, basically Bigfoot is there, and he doesn't walk across a creek and behind a tree. He literally vanishes in front of their eyes. And I mean, we're talking about people that are stand-up members in the community telling you that 1 minute they see this creature, the next minute, poof, he's gone. Now, Gigantopithecus could not do that. If that's what Bigfoot is, it's a flesh and blood creature that's in our world. I mean, I think more interdimensional, just like what you're saying. I mean, there's more to it than what they're trying to say. Call it could it be an extraterrestrial hybrid? Maybe. It's the vanishing part has always stuck with me. And I've talked to people over the years, and I mean, I'm talking good people, down to earth people, men, women, and that's always stuck with me. It was there 1 minute, Jason. The next minute, I didn't turn my head, do anything. It was gone. There has to be something more on the paranormal side for something to vanish. It's just that simple.
So then, when we look at the way you are researching this creature, what do you think it is?
I'm going to be honest, Dave. I used to think that I knew, and the more I have researched, the older I have got. I'm going to be honest with you. Some people will laugh this off, but I just really do. I lean more towards, and some people will agree with this and some won't, but an interdimensional being, I think it has the ability, and I've heard people say, well, it lives underground. That's a possibility. The government has tunnels from here to there all over the country, blah, blah, blah. I think there's something else to it than what we see. We only get glimpses of it at certain times. I don't think it's here all the time. I think it appears for some odd reason at certain times, and people are lucky. And some people say, does Bigfoot travel through portals? I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. As a matter of fact, if your listeners, some of them are going to be familiar with the Skinwalker Ranch. There's many, many cases on the Skinwalker Ranch where literally Bigfoot and UFOs appeared out of an orange hole in the sky out of a portal. So that just lends me to believe that there's something interdimensional about it. Now, whether it's being sent here by aliens or, another culture or whatever you want to call it, but I really lean towards the interdimensional theory. I really do right now at this point.
See, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I am very disappointed. And I've challenged a couple people on this, and I'm starting to challenge them more. But I've challenged a couple of researchers on this. How can you sit here and tell me with a straight face that Bigfoot does not have these possibilities? Okay, when if we look at a couple of things. We've seen, and people have recorded and researched, where tracks, you could have a dozen or so tracks, maybe more, and all of a sudden they vanish. There's no trees, there's no water, it's in an open field, and those tracks just disappear. We've had a plethora of those sightings. Okay? We have the sightings of this creature that seems to appear and disappear at will. There's a reason why it's called the reigning hide-and-seek champion. We have the fact that how many people who take pictures of what they believe as a Sasquatch, that picture or that video always comes out blurry. The entire world cannot be that bad a photographer or videographer. There has to be something that I'm not seeing or understanding about this creature that is out there. Yet for a lot of these researchers, they don't even want to look at it, Jason. They don't want to approach the subject. They don't want to touch the subject because they think, oh man, this is going to hurt my credibility if I get this. So they're putting their credibility and opinion ahead of what could possibly be fact. And to me, rounding it out, I know I mentioned this just a couple of minutes ago, but to me, that's not science. You cannot rule out things before you've researched them. And your belief, no matter what it is, does not matter in the research. So how do you keep an open mind with this when other people around you are saying differently?
It's hard sometimes. I mean, anyone that's done any type of investigation in the paranormal, like we talked about earlier, I mean, you've got believers, you've got skeptics, and sometimes I get so mad, I just, you just want to just scream because, like you said, I mean, these people are so-called scientists, and here they are with their degrees and everything else, but yet just because it doesn't fit what they consider to be, what's acceptable by science. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there was a point in time years ago when, I mean, who would have thought that we would have the atom bomb? But yet, look what happened. I mean, and luckily now, some of these scientists are coming around. I mean, even though people like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, he basically leans that, to the Gigantopithecus theory, but he's still open-minded to, other possibilities. Too many people are seeing the same thing at different places, and they're credible people. And what's so bad is, like what you're saying now, there's probably tons and tons of really good evidence that we don't even get to hear about or see because people are scared to talk about it because they're going to be, they're scared they're going to be run down, they're going to be humiliated, they're going to have problems at work, lose their job, their kids are going to be made fun of. So, I mean, there's no telling what we're not getting that may be on somebody's phone or a camcorder and it's sitting, in a drawer somewhere and they're thinking, I really need to show this to somebody, but hey, I talked to some guy down here at the junior college, somebody that's in the science department, and they're like, are you kidding me? I'm not even going to look at your film because that's impossible. And then what happens? There it is. It's in a drawer. It's sitting for 20 years. It may or may not ever be seen. And it could be that one piece of evidence that, with cell phone technology now, we're getting a lot better stuff and people are a little bit more open to it. And like you said, the whole world cannot be that bad of a photographer. So I hold out hopes that, but here again, you have so many people that want to hope stuff. And then a lot of people are scared, even if they do have that piece of evidence that's the one in a million thing, they're thinking, nobody's going to believe me. It hurts everything in the paranormal. And I think that maybe helps the scientific community, like you said, to kind of to dampen it. Because I think some of them are scared to admit the truth. I think some of these scientists know what's going on, but due to, research grants, stuff like that, I mean, there's people out there that probably just say, hey, I don't want to get involved in this. I've seen proof and I know it, but I'm not going to get on the national news media and say, by the way, I'm here at such and such university and I've got proof that Bigfoot exists, because the people that are their peers are going to shoot them down, and then they're going to be out of job and look ridiculous. And I think that has a lot to do with it.
I think you're right there. I really do think that you're right on that. So how then do people, those ordinary people who have an extraordinary experience, who are afraid to come out, how do you get them to build up the courage to talk about this?
Now, I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of YouTube. I tell people all the time, you can always post something to YouTube, and I mean, you don't actually have to put your name on the account. There's that's one way. Put it out there and let some folks look at it. You'd be surprised how many people, are on there Googling, Bigfoot video, stuff like that. I mean, there are people out there that are just average, ordinary investigators that, can help them and point them in the right direction. And, granted, maybe it is a bear. Maybe somebody took a video of a bear, but what if it's not, you can't, you don't always have to take it to the immediate authority type figures. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, UFOs for years were just shot down. You know, nobody wanted to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. The military didn't investigate it. And that's another thing. I mean, we all know there's proof now that the military has investigated Bigfoot sightings. There's been many Bigfoot sightings on military bases.
Well, we had Jody Cook on a couple of weeks ago. Or was it Todd Neese? Todd Neese, I believe, pardon me. And he actually stated that when he was in the Army, that's where he had a sighting of 3 of them while they were doing a controlled explosion as an Army engineer. And that's where they saw 3 of them in Washington State. And so when I look at that, and he was saying that there is actually a protocol that is written down for a lot of Army engineers about interaction with Sasquatch if it happens. It was a Special Forces one. I sent that to a gentleman up here with Forest Moon Paranormal, Eric Cooper, who spent 19 and a half years in the Army, so he is actually looking into that as well. But it's very interesting, man, to see how the military does go with that. You know, and they have investigated it. I have a question from Darren in one of our chat rooms. It goes back to what you said earlier about the sightings that were up in 2016 in your area. Why do you think they are up in the number of people sighting?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of them actually happened a while back. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, Gatlinburg. Actually, we had a very bad fire that started, and a lot of Gatlinburg and the Smoky Mountains caught on fire and burnt. To be honest, a lot of these sightings were actually reported then. Now, which if you think about it, paranormal or not, anytime a large area of woods starts to burn, you're going to have creatures trying to escape the fire. And that kind of spiked at that point in time. Of course, now things are kind of getting back to normal, but, and I'm not saying that was all of them, but I don't, other than that, I'm just not sure. They seem to go up and down and then spike and then go back down again. But I did notice there were several reports, right after the fire that people had seen large, hairy bipedal creatures basically trying to escape the flames and fires. And one of them, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember where I read this report, but one of them was actually a helicopter crew, if I'm not mistaken, that was up and flying over, surveying some of the damage. And I think it was I'm pretty sure it was from a local crew out of Knoxville. And I mean, these are people that, fly over the area quite a bit and are pretty well familiar with bears and stuff. And they were, and I don't think it actually gave a name of who reported it, but they were pretty adamant that this was a very, very large creature standing on 2 legs, and it was basically moving at a very good pace. And like I said, I never could verify exactly if it was somebody on the news crew or, maybe somebody from the state office or something, but it kind of circulated around locally, which kind of piqued my curiosity. Because, I mean, if you've got people familiar, and it could have been someone in the park system for all I know. Like I said, I don't think it's stated, but if you think about it, and you do have people, flying over the area, granted with the foliage and everything not being burnt, it would be hard to see something. But with everything pretty much burnt like it was, and, we all know helicopters go pretty low as far as, their height in the sky and everything. I mean, and people that fly over the park a lot, and you've got burnt terrain, and for someone to see that, you pretty much kind of have to believe they saw something out of the ordinary.
For sure. Absolutely. That out of the ordinary feeling, a lot of people get that. I mean, even around your house. I'll tell you, the other night, my wife is quite empathic. She sent me a text message and said, when you take the dog outside, I'm picking up the energy of a cougar around the area. And we have a lot of cougars in our area. Makes you stay a little bit closer to the door because all of a sudden your body naturally is on guard when something strange or something isn't right is happening around you. Is that what a lot of people you think are experiencing when it comes to these Sasquatch sightings?
Most of them do. A lot of them you actually do. And, of course, you were talking about it being empathetic. Not everyone is like that, but most all of us, when something strange or weird is about to happen, most all of us get some type of sensation or something. You usually can feel it, call it, some people may say it's like deja vu, but I know I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it many times, sometimes more than others. I mean, I've been out certain times investigating UFOs and just had a feeling to, hey, look to the south, and you look to the south, and there was something. Now, whether it was just a scar that kind of caught you off guard, but still you get that feeling. And a lot of times, if you'll go with that, whether it's more fear or more being inquisitive, a lot of times it's telling you something. Now, I don't know if that's just something we have in human nature, but I try to tell people, don't panic. Kind of feel it out and go with it, and you might be surprised what ends up happening, what you might actually see. But you've got some people that want to turn their back and run, which is understandable. But a lot of times, if you'll follow that feeling, you'll get some pretty positive results.
Mm-hmm. I want to get to more questions here, Jason, from our audience, because we have a plethora of them that are starting to build up. Spear says, or is asking, when they vanish, do you think there is missing time involved?
That's been reported, yes, and I've never experienced that, but there has been missing time with Bigfoot sightings, just like with UFOs. I think that goes back again to the interdimensional part of it, and maybe the entering and exiting. Well, when they're vanishing, of course, going back to wherever or whatever dimension they're from. I think that when they transport between, call it a portal, call it what you wish, I think that does affect, and forgive me because I'm not a physicist or a scientist, but I think it does basically, and I may not explain this right, but just like warm hose and stuff, when, there's a tear in the fabric of time, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that is more proof to back up that there's an interdimensional quality to them.
Let's get to another question. Don is asking, do they then vanish or just blend in that well?
That is the $1,000,000 question, and I think it could be both. I've actually seen and heard from people that, heard people tell me that in certain cases they just vanish. And then, like I was talking about earlier with Jan's photo, the predator photo, I've also heard that they actually blend in just like on them, and that's why they call her photo the predator photo, because basically it's kind of like the movie Predator. And we all know Hollywood sometimes takes, a little truth to make their movies. So if you think about it, I mean, yeah, I think it could be both. I think they could actually slip through to another dimension and or just literally melt into their surroundings, just like on the movie Predator.
I mean,
we all know the military's working with camouflage right now.
Absolutely.
It's basically digitized camouflage, and I mean, we got that somewhere. We didn't just. I don't think that we just come up with that. I think it's something that, just like with everything else, they had basically took something, reverse engineered it, be it whether it was from this, that, or a Bigfoot type creature that could do it.
Mm-hmm. That leads to Eric's question that I really like here, and he is asking, could the shaggy hair on the creature help disguise it much like the ghillie suit that snipers and hunters use?
110% correct in my opinion, yes. And it's just like, I'm sure you're familiar with this, lots of people tell you, they smell a pungent odor, a sulfur smell, or, some type of odor from it. I think that's something that's another part of its camouflage or, system to say, hey, I'm here, you're somewhere you're not supposed to be. Call it an early warning system, a deterrent. I mean, we all know tear gas, basically. I mean, it's the same thing. If you hear people talk about, I smelled Bigfoot, it was nasty, wet smelling. I mean, it's basically a tear gas canister. I mean, it's a deterrent. It's like, don't proceed any further, back up.
Follow-up question from Eric here. And I'm just going to find it. I missed it here. There it is. Do you have any experience investigating the Reelfoot Lake area? Because Eric always thought that was prime territory for Sasquatch.
Yes, I actually live about 40 minutes from Reelfoot. I can recall, I think, 2 sightings that I've ever been able to actually talk to people about. Reelfoot is actually not what you would think as far as Bigfoot territory. It's very flat. There's actually really not that much. It's not that expansive of a section of woods. It's pretty much open and bare most places. I mean, the lake, of course, we all know it was caused by the earthquake. I've only been able to verify 2 actual sightings that I've actually investigated, and there wasn't really any credible evidence. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that these people didn't see what they thought they saw. I just didn't know. There is, there's possibility, no doubt. I mean, we have a lot of bottomland and stuff, which if the viewers are not familiar with where I'm at in Tennessee, we're more like, if you could consider maybe the Florida Everglades, but not as swampy. But we have a lot of swamp land, and if you're familiar with the skunk ape out of Florida. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility by no means.
We got time for about 1 question here, and we got about 2.5 minutes before we got to go to break. Loretta is asking, Jason, about a week ago we had the crypto guru Ronald Murphy on this show, and the guru entertained the idea that Bigfoot could be associated with the fairy realm. Does this seem plausible when you refer to the being interdimensional?
I would say it's in the realm of possibility, yes. The fairy realm, in my opinion, people are thinking of 2-inch creatures running through the forest, and that's not exactly what the fairy realm entails. There's more to it than that. But yeah, I think it could tie into that definitely. I mean, there's been a lot of reports over the years, and this has been mostly small children, young children, but of seeing fairy type creatures. But there's also been a couple of incidents that are well documented of actual little people. And 1 or 2 of them, yes, were colored green, but they were not alien-type creatures. They were like real small people, and one of them was actually described as a small green man with a Mexican hat on. So, I mean, and several adults saw this creature. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe when the adults left the scene, I believe one of the children actually squished the creature, but the hat remained. You take that with a grain of salt if you want to, but this was documented. And I mean, here again, like we talked about earlier, I'm open to anything. So who's to say that, that's not a possibility?
And on that note, my friend, we are going to hold on up here because we are just moments away from hopping out on our first break of the night. Jason Sudbury is a cryptid investigator down in the state of Tennessee. He works really hard on trying to prove the overall justification of what these cryptid creatures are, from Bigfoot to Mothman, Chupacabra, Flatwoods Monster. We're going to get into them all tonight. We're going to continue the Bigfoot talk as well when we come back after this break. You are listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll see you right on the other side.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night on the show, we round out the month with our monthly Paranormal Roundtable. The SOR Roundtable gets going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, right here at spacedoutradio.com. Hope you can hang out and join us. Bring your questions as well. The panel is ready for you. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio as well. If you want to connect with me live during the show, like Skeptic, God of Thunder, Dennis Koch, Jeff Greer, you know who you are. Thank you so much for being with us. John, you as well. Thank you. Appreciate you taking the time. You can also give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher, TalkStream Live, and on RadioGuide.fm. We've added to the field of listening choices for you. But, of course, our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. We want to thank everyone listening in on Revolution Radio. The Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. United Public Radio Network, we are live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We are also live on Renegade Talk Radio. We are your nighttime show of Las Vegas. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight, the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pulchritudinous. Pulchritudinous is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers. That's a big score in Scrabble if you're playing. So use it wisely. Pulchritudinous is your password. Jeff, I need a definition on that, so make sure you get that one for me in the chat room. Thank you. Jason Sudbury is our guest. He's a cryptid researcher in the state of Tennessee. One of our longest guests here on this show. Jason, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's good to have you back with us, my friend. We're going to get to a couple more questions from our audience, if you don't mind. Gail is asking, Jason, do you believe Bigfoot could or would want to mate with an animal like a bear?
Personally, I don't think that's a possibility. It's not, I guess it's not entirely unacceptable, but me personally, I don't think that, here again, I think it's more towards the interdimensional type creature, in my opinion, and I don't think that there would be any need to do that. I don't think there's any want to do that. Of course, I could be totally wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think that's one of its motives, actually.
Mm-hmm. Question coming from Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. This one from Canadian Joe. He is asking, Jason, do you believe Bigfoot has a dark side? There are reports of Bigfoot taking women, children, possibly cannibalization. What is your thoughts?
I do think there's probably a dark side to Bigfoot to some extent. I mean, I've heard the same thing, over the years. I mean, people have been abducted. For the most part, you've heard of people either escaping or when you do hear people, just basically disappearing. But I don't think that's the actual main purpose of what Bigfoot's doing. I think that the possibility exists that, people are abducted by Bigfoot, but I don't think that it's for a nefarious reason. I really don't think there's any intent to do actual harm. I think harm does come to certain people for different reasons. Maybe it's a mistake. Just like alien abductions, a lot of people, don't know they've been abducted, but through regression, the hypnosis, they figure out, they have been, and some people have darker tales to tell than some, but I don't think that's the main purpose. I think just like in anything in life, I think mistakes are made. Just like if you go in to have surgery, sometimes for a heart problem, things go wrong, people die. I do think there's some bad things that happen, but I don't think they're actually on purpose. I think things go wrong with anything. If you research and know anything about, different dimensions, that I think that sometimes maybe when someone is taken by the creature and is basically maybe, I guess this is the best way to describe it, taken through a portal, I think, that something happens and people get hurt, and I just don't think it's the plan, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think accidents just happen.
Well, I know up north of me in British Columbia here, we have the Highway of Tears. And that's where over 60 women have gone missing over the years. Yes. Now, I happened to, a couple of years ago, run into a First Nations woman. And we started talking about Bigfoot. We started talking about the missing women. And I remember saying to her, and I'm going to leave her name out, that I believe, because of what happened in the Chehalis Indian Band back in the 1930s, where a woman was actually kidnapped from the reserve and taken as a quote-unquote Sasquatch wife, I brought to her this theory. I said, I feel bad about what's going on, and I'm asking a very sensitive question, but do you believe that Sasquatch may have taken some of these women as wives? Because we do know, and it is proven up there, and the Highway of Tears actually starts in my town, and it goes way up north. And she said to me, she goes, I'll tell you something. She goes, my cousin's wife is one of those ladies who went missing. And the First Nations up there have tried telling the RCMP that they believe maybe 20 to 30% of the women up there had been taken by Sasquatch. And in fact, the weird part about it is, most of the women who were taken were either menstruating, they were pregnant, or within a year of giving birth, like after giving birth. And Bigfoot, according to First Nations legend, has an affinity for the smell of women's blood. Doesn't mean he's killing them, but according to First Nations up here, there are more male Bigfoot than there are female. That's why they look for wives, shall we say. What's your theory on that? What do you think about that?
Dave, I totally agree with that. I'm familiar with what you're talking about. A lot of people want to subscribe, a lot of the missing people, especially the women, to a serial killer, and I don't think that's what's going on. I'm not as familiar with the First Nation as you are, but I researched it. I totally agree with that. Now, the question earlier that was asked about would Bigfoot want to mate with an animal, I said no to that. But now, when you mentioned that about the menstruation cycle of women, that is something that comes up time and time again. I think that is a definite possibility. I think Bigfoot is, I think that is a definite possibility, and I think it's true. If you think about it, even if it's an interdimensional creature like I think it is, it's still somewhat a flesh and blood creature. Just because it's from another dimension doesn't mean that it won't act like any other animal in the animal kingdom. It's just like a bear. It's just like a shark. If a woman's menstruating, you don't need to get in the ocean because, blood, the smell, the scent, animals are attracted to that. I think that is probably one of the smartest things that I've heard over the years. I think it's a definite possibility.
I wonder. And, it is one of those situations. And Dawn is asking, actually, I would think ovulation would be more attractive for a scent for an animal.
Oh, yes. I do, too. Yeah, I mean, you can just look at it, as we were talking about earlier, about the scientific community, wants to turn a blind eye to certain things. That's something that, you know, anybody that knows anything about animals, I mean, you just know that. You know, if you get cut in the woods or anything like that, and you're out there wild, I mean, you want to stop the bleeding for the simple fact that that blood can be smelled over long distances. The ovulation part, even though we're separated from the animal kingdom, I mean, we're still close enough to where they can sense it. They also sense it as a weakness, and I think it attracts them. And like you said about the ovulation period, I mean, we know for a fact in alien abductions, I mean, you know, supposedly people are abducted, women are abducted that are pregnant and or abducted and then later become pregnant. Now, some people laugh at that idea. Oh, yeah, sure, you know, the aliens are impregnating people. But let's just be honest. What do we do to animals? We put them in cages, and we do tests on them, and we do strange things to them. And why would certain creatures that were as smart or smarter than us not do the same thing?
Mm-hmm. There's always a lot of hunters out there, and in my area, it's a hunting community and a fishing community. And I know friends of mine who are hunters whose wives love to hunt, but they will not take them out during that time of year because wild animals absolutely can smell the female menstruation cycle. You know, and I'm not trying to get grotesque on this topic here, but this is a serious topic because if wild animals can be attracted to that type of game, and this is where it gets dangerous, especially during rutting season and deer season or elk season or moose season. I mean, these are animals that can kill you, everyday animals that you see in your yard or in your forest or wherever you are. Imagine if now we're dealing with a Sasquatch where we don't know what the result will be. You hope for the best, but you don't know.
And you were mentioning hunters and people that fish. We've had several incidents. Of course, the Tennessee River runs through Tennessee in different parts, but and I know in your area in upstate Washington and British Columbia, I've had a lot of reports over the years. Now, I personally never witnessed this, but it's well documented. A lot of fishermen and people that are there, you know, off the coast and beaches, Bigfoot is seen digging for clams around the water. A lot of sightings happen around the water. I've had several fishermen that have been on the Tennessee River. Here we call them river rats. And for anybody out there listening, if you know that there's nothing negative when I say that, but people that spend their life on the river see Bigfoot by the water, either drinking water, bathing in the water, or foraging food by the water. The water is a definite hotspot, at least here in my area in the States, for a chance at a good Bigfoot sighting, because, I mean, we all know interdimensional creature or Gigantopithecus. I mean, what's one of the main things? I mean, the planet's basically water. I mean, creatures have to have water, so tell all the listeners out there, you know, don't hesitate to think that you might have a good sighting near water. I tell people all the time, you know, keep your eyes open when you're near water, especially water in the back country and stuff like that, because all creatures have to have water to survive.
Mm-hmm. Question from Gail. Gail is asking, Jason, as an interdimensional being, an entity, what do you believe then Bigfoot's purpose is?
That is a question I pondered for a long time. It goes back to, in my opinion, what you were discussing with the Native Americans. And somebody earlier asked a question, did I think Bigfoot had, you know, a negative or a evil type, you know, intention? And I've heard this from other people, but I think for the most part, and a lot of the Native Americans back this up, I think Bigfoot serves as maybe a warning, or, you know, when Mothman was spotted, a lot of people, of course, the Silver Bridge fell, and I think 41 people lost their lives, and there have been other flying humanoids seen before major catastrophes. I think Bigfoot may serve as a warning. Maybe we're doing something wrong, maybe with the environment or just ourselves, or some of the things we're doing ties into genetic testing, pharmaceutical. I mean, I think Bigfoot, I guess, on the whole, has more of a positive impact, or is trying to have more of a positive impact on human beings than a negative impact, in my opinion. I think a lot of the Native Americans will tell you that, I've heard them say he's the big brother. He's here to try to steer us in the right direction. Whether it's an interdimensional being sent from, gray aliens, or however you want to look at it, reptilians, or just, we know now, that there basically are other dimensions beside of us that we can't see. Basically, right now, there is another me somewhere in the universe doing something else. Some people may not still want to admit that or subscribe to it, but mainstream scientists now will tell you that's happening. And I think somehow or another, somebody or some type of intelligence is sending him back to maybe forewarn us or give us some type of, warning that, hey, something's not right. I don't know. The message may not be getting across exactly like what they want, but I think sightings have a positive, there's something positive about it. I really think it is. I don't think there's anything negative about most of the sightings. I think there's something that we're not getting, that we're trying to be told that, hey, something's not right. Now, that's just my opinion. A lot of people will agree with it. Some people won't.
Dennis on hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter is asking, what about then all of those elder backwoods swamp inhabitants who say they've never seen anything like a Bigfoot or a cryptid?
Well, now, speaking from my experience, and a lot of people would say the same thing, but it's like with the First Nations people. I think if you spend enough time with them and they get comfortable enough with you, I think that you'll find out that that's not really the case. A lot of the backwoods folks here in my area, the people live in what we call the bottoms, the mountain people, like Weir's Valley and Maggie's Valley up in East Tennessee, if you spend enough time with them, at first, they're going to tell you no. I've lived here 60 years. I've lived on this same piece of property on top of this mountain. I've never seen anything. If you spend enough time with them and they learn to trust you, in due time, if you're patient, you will find out that they are some of the best people to talk to, and they're a wealth of information. And if they really get to know you, when they open up, you'll be surprised in a year's time from when you first met them, what they tell you down the road. And that's the problem. A lot of them never really become accustomed and comfortable with you and trust you enough. But if you're sincere and you're very persistent, you'll find out. And some people will say, well, they're just telling you what you want to hear. Well, here's the deal. I'm not trying to write a book. I'm not trying to make a video to make money. So if you're persistent, you'll find out. And if you spend enough time with them, you'll find out they're sincere, and eventually you'll get that one piece of information. And the whole time you've been thinking, I just need, be patient, not be pushy. And then you'll hear, hey, you know what? I have been here on this piece of property this long, and let me tell you what I really know. And you can look in their eyes and you can tell that when they tell you something, that it's not a made-up story, because these people have here again, they're the same as me. They're not trying to make a dollar. They're not trying to write that book. And they start telling you things that you've heard or read or were fortunate enough to get out of somebody else. And it's that one little piece, that one little thing. It may just be a couple of words. And you think, how in the world? This guy has no television. He has basically, lived in the middle of nowhere all his life. And he'll just say that one thing. And then you find out this guy can't read. He hasn't had a TV in 20 years. He goes to town once a year. How did he find out this one thing that coincides with something across the country? And you know that time that you spent there and the persistence paid off. That's how you know something's really real about this phenomenon.
There's a lot of people, Jason, out there who want to have that experience. They listen to shows like this, and they have an open mind to the realm of possibility that these experiences are happening. yet they haven't had that experience themselves. They are yearning for that experience. How would you tell a brand new researcher who wants to go looking for Bigfoot what to do? Break it down for me.
First off, don't look too hard. I've learned that the hard way. If you're looking too hard, you won't find it. It's when you least expect it. And I'm not saying drop your guard or give up, but it's that one moment that you're just really, you're thinking, okay, this just isn't going to happen to me. I still believe in it, but you can look so hard that you're not going to. It's just like with UFOs. I hear people all the time say, I just can't see a UFO. I go out every Saturday night. I do this. I do that. You can look so hard that you don't see it, and that may not come across right to some people. But don't give up, but don't push so hard that while you're pushing to see something, you actually miss it. Keep your eyes open to everything. Don't blink, I guess is the best way to say it, because that moment you blink is when it happens and you don't see it, and you've spent 3 or 4 years doing something and you're ready to just give up. And the whole time, if you go back and think about it, it happened. And if you go back and think and you really watch, but don't pursue it too hard. If you do, you'll miss it.
This leads to Craig's question. If someone wanted to see a Sasquatch, where, in your opinion, is the most common place where sightings take place?
In the United States, I would probably say Washington State is probably one of the better places. Your part of the country is great. I mean, British Columbia, Vancouver Island. I'm sure you're familiar with that. Vancouver Island is a great place. Let's see, where else would I say would be an actual hot spot here? I'll be honest with you, there's been quite a few sightings in Colorado. It's really, there's always been sightings in Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. There's a lot of people that visit that area. And I'll tell you another thing, national parks. National parks are hot spots. Basically, doesn't matter where you're at as long as it's a national park. And I think the reason being, yes, there's a lot of people in national parks that visit, but if you look at, and of course we all know that all the park rangers are actual federal law enforcement agents, but if you look at the number of park rangers in national parks, the number of people patrolling those parks and actually getting out, and that's another thing. These days, a lot of the park rangers don't go into the backcountry. Back in the day, they did. Now they don't, because they're too busy, watching tourists, making sure everybody's, nobody's drinking and partying and doing other things in the park. Back a long time ago, they actually got out. I mean, that was part of a park ranger's duty. They hiked trails. They went places. They did things. I've experienced that in the Smoky Mountains. Back when I first moved to Knoxville, I lived in Knoxville 11 years and in Bristol, Tennessee for 3. And the older park rangers were a wealth of information. The newer park rangers, you talk to them and they're like, well, what are you talking about? I don't even know the trail you're talking about. And you're like, how long have you been here? Well, I've been here 4 years and I've never even heard of that trail. Well, how can you work in a park and not know this trail? The older park rangers knew places that the newer park personnel don't know about. National parks are good because they're protected. You can't hunt. That's the main thing. You cannot hunt in a national park. If you were an interdimensional creature or, a missing link, where would you be safe? A place where people cannot openly hunt you and kill you. So national parks are a great place.
This leads to Dawn's question. How long would you have to sit in the bush to actually see one?
You could, that's a great question. Some people go and camp out or have a cookout one time on a Saturday and are in the woods 30 minutes. Some people go all their life and never see one. I don't think that a person, it's just like the question earlier about, investigating. I don't think that you can actually go out and make the event happen. I think the event picks you. I think if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. Now, whether it happens the first time you go out in the woods or the fourth time, I think if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and it's set up already, and it's not in your control. I think that the Bigfoot picks the person, the place, and the time. And if you are, I hate to put this type of, what am I trying to say? I don't think you can make it happen. I think it's preordained, I guess would be the best way to say it. The Bigfoot picks you, the time, and the place, and it'll happen or it won't. I don't think you can make it happen. You see them on TV, tree knocking, which, don't get me wrong, I think tree knocking, that's not a bad thing. And I've seen a lot of, on these shows now, you say, you've got like 5 or 6 women that go out without the men. I think that's a positive point. Here again, like you said, I don't suggest anybody going out if any females are menstruating. I don't think that's a good idea, but I do think that sometimes in certain situations, women will have better luck trying to have a sighting of a Bigfoot than men do. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think then about a lot of these ways to communicate? I'm trying to put it politely here. Okay, I do not fully believe in what the television shows try and teach us. In fact, I think a lot of these television shows, and I'm not going to mention who, but I really believe that they add a complete farce to the research that is truly going on by researchers. Now, I'm not blaming those who are in front of the camera, who are being told to tree knock or bring in the marching bands to try and communicate. It's getting ridiculous on television. And I know it's the networks who are doing that as a part of their whole ratings issue, because that's all they care about. They care about the ratings. I mean, that's how they make money, let's be honest. But do you think that any of these tactics, if we can call them that, actually work? Or do you think that it's getting beyond ridiculous, where just because there's a branch falling out of a tree, that's a Bigfoot? A rabbit farts on the side of the road, that's a Bigfoot. Because
I think it's basically what I call paranormal reality shows. They might as well send the card, and no offense if this offends anybody, I'm sorry, but they might as well send the Kardashians out there with Kanye West and camp out for the weekend and let him sing or something. Because, no, it's ridiculous. Now, do some of the things that they're trying to do in reality, do they have some type of positive point? Yes, but I'm like you, it's so far out now. Come on, let's get real. I'm like, you won't mention any names, but some of the stuff they're doing, of course, that's all it is a a limb falling out of a tree. No Bigfoot or anybody else is going to come within 3 miles of some of these idiots. And I'm sorry if that's not what I should have said, but it's just ridiculous. I know, like you said, it's the ratings. It is TV. They've got to do what they've got to do, but it's ridiculous. And I tell people all the time, do not turn on certain cable TV shows and go grab all the stuff they've got and run out to the woods and try to do what they're doing, because guess what's going to happen? You're not going to see anything. You're not going to hear anything. All you're going to do is make a bunch of noise in the wood, and people a mile away is going to think, what are these idiots doing? Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it doesn't help what serious researchers are trying to do. It just doesn't. It hurts us.
How does it hurt?
Well, number one, like you said, you could turn on a certain TV program, and if you go and try to follow in their footsteps, you're not going to have a positive result. Here's the thing with that: you go out a couple of times, and nothing positive happens, you're going to give up. Don't do that. Go out, act normal. Don't go out with a preconceived notion that, hey, it's my first time in the woods, I'm going to see Bigfoot. That's not how it works. If you're serious about it, you need to understand before you even go out that this is something that could happen. right then and there. It could take months, years. I think the more normal you act and the less attention you draw to yourself most of the time, the higher your chances are. Let's just be honest. If you go out in the woods and start banging on a tree for, 2 or 3 times every hour, are you going to attract a bear? Probably not. So why would you attract a Bigfoot? I mean, it's just not going to happen.
What should researchers then be doing? Is it about being one with nature? Is it about trying to blend in with the environment? Maybe not showering for a couple of days? What do you think we should do?
Myself, I try to keep being one with nature, definitely. I mean, you want to respect your surroundings. I tell this to a lot of people a lot of times. Look at the past history of Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Spookles, however it's called in whatever different division or divide or tribe in Native American people. Look at what the Native Americans do. What do? They respect the land. They respect the animals. They don't leave a big imprint on the environment. Who has seen this creature the most over the years? The Native Americans. If you live somewhere, and I suggest this to people all the time, if you live somewhere where there are Native American people, talk to them. Not all of them are just right off the bat going to be that friendly and that open with you, but try to touch base with the Native Americans in your area. They're a wealth of information. Once they get to know you and realize that you're not there to do any damage, or, if you go rolling in and like in North Carolina, right there on the border of Tennessee up in the Smoky Mountains, I've made a lot of friends there with the Cherokee people, and it took a while. I mean, like I said, I lived there 11 years, and it took a long time. But once they see you're not there to roll out the cameras and make a documentary and write a book about it and, catch fire to the land and everything, they're a wealth of information. They can tell you, these are certain places you need to go. And I'll tell you something that I've been, a lot of times, go where there's berries, berry picking. A lot of people, a little hint for folks out there in the woods, if you go and pick berries, blueberries, blackberries, elderberries, that's a good place to have a sighting, to have an experience with Bigfoot. But, the Native Americans have always respected the land, respected the animals, and they're the people that have seen them the most. So that's always where I tell people to start, get some history on the people that have been there for hundreds of years. Listen to their stories. When they tell you something, don't write it off as, it's just an Indian legend. It's just like anything else in life, even like urban legends. Usually urban legends have it's like disinformation. I mean, disinformation even has some truth in it. So, that's always been where I have got a lot of good tips and hints on where to go is the Native American people in my area.
Another thing Gail is asking, she says, you should come visit Cascadia here in the Pacific Northwest. Dave would love to take you bigfooting. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. But Craig has an important question, okay? And Craig, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is actually what I am dealing with in my area, Jason. Okay? I've been tipped off to an area about an hour's drive from me by First Nations people that there is an old abandoned mine shaft. And in that old abandoned mine shaft, that's where we are apparently seeing a lot of Bigfoot sightings.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
The problem is there is a huge concentration up north here of grizzly bears and cougars in the area. So this leads to Craig's question, which is, what if you live around grizzlies and you got to make noise to stay safe? How do we figure that out?
Well, I mean, of course, all we have in East Tennessee are black bears, and that's a total different creature than the grizzly bear. We all know that. But let's be honest. I mean, from what I'm no expert on bears by no means. But, I mean, the amount of noise that you have to make, of course, mountain lions and cougars, yes, they do take people, but let's be honest, I mean, they're, and of course, y'all have more of them where you're at than I do, so, but from what I understand about them, I mean, you don't see them that often, just like a grizzly bear. I mean, you're not going to have to go around for 8 hours during the day where you're in the woods and make that much noise. So do what you have to do to protect yourself. And, of course, other than, and I'm not sure about in Canada, but I know here now in the national parks, we're allowed, if you have a concealed carry license, you can carry a handgun in the national park. You can't hunt, but you are allowed to carry a handgun. And I always tell people, carry a handgun and carry a transponder. And I didn't do that until I started reading the Missing 411 books. But I always go with some type of protection. And from what I understand about grizzly bears, I mean, you're not going to be out there, you know, fighting them off left and right every 30 minutes. So, I mean, I would say it was still feasible, which I don't know. If we had grizzly bears in East Tennessee, when I go up at the end of this month, I don't know how much traipsing through the woods I would do, you know, if I couldn't carry a gun. But I don't think that you would have to contend with bears on such a scale that you still couldn't go out and have a possibility of encountering Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things, though, like up here, handguns are prohibited. Okay? You have to bring a rifle with you. You have to bring a rifle with you. And especially in our area, I mean, it's not just the grizzly bears and the black bears and the cougars. There's a concentration of very large moose that are
yeah, well, I know moose kill more people, I think, than any other creature probably in your areas, like Alaska. So, yeah, moose are definitely dangerous.
Absolutely. And between that, you have packs of wolves running around everywhere. They're hungry. You also have coyotes. You also have deer, especially if they're in rutting season. You have to be careful, you know. But for the most part, the animals will try to stay away. We even have a concentration moving in here of feral pigs. So you do have to be careful. You really do have to be careful with absolutely everything that is in this realm of wilderness, right? Because this stuff and these animals can kill you. And and one of the things that I have learned when you go into these territories, see, I don't have my own gun license yet. And it takes a number of months in Canada here to get a gun license. We're not going to get into the whole gun debate because that's not part of it. Okay? But I have to go into those areas with people who are armed if we want to look for information. So how do you justify, because a lot of researchers that I have talked to actually believe that Sasquatch has an aversion to the smell of gunpowder. Have you ever come across that?
I have heard that. I have heard that many times. Yes, I have. You know, that's one of those situations where the only other thing, and like I said, we have black bear here. The worst thing the only other thing we have that's worse than the black bear would be we have venomous snakes here. When we have several different types of snakes, go in here again. You want to tell people, you know, go in the woods and a sufficient number of people. But then again, you carry too many people, and it probably diminishes your chances of seeing the creature. But if you're the mindset like I am, if it's interdimensional, I don't know that the number of people, you know, plus or minus really hurts your chances. Here again, I think if you're going to have a sighting, I think it's already there. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, when, where. And the people that don't think it's interdimensional, then it's a flesh and blood creature, you know, like we were talking about, Gigantopithecus, you know, your chances of seeing it is it's just like a bear. You're either going to run up on it or it's not. But I think there's certain things, not necessarily, you know, the smell of blood, the smell of food. I think there are other things that certain people have that draw the chance of the creature appearing in front of you to certain people. It's just like certain people have more UFO sightings, certain people see ghosts. I think there's something in certain people that And a lot of people don't know it. If you research it enough, a lot of these people that see it are people that you would think, how did they see Bigfoot? And I've never seen it. I've been camping. I've been hunting for 25 years. This guy went out for a picnic with his wife and kids for the first time, and bam, there he is. He has a plaster cast of a footprint that is pretty convincing. Why did he see it? I think there's something in certain people that draws UFOs, creatures, ghosts to them to be able to be seen. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I know people that have researched, Bigfoot for years and have never seen anything, not the slightest bit of noise, hair, scat, anything. And I mean, these are good, solid people that, that are good researchers, and they still believe the possibility, but they've never had the slightest hint of any positive, results from an investigation.
So, Jason, when you have these people out there who have been researching for years and they still haven't had a sighting, is it because they are way too skeptical, or they're narrow-minded in their search, or they're just not lucky?
I think deep down, and what I have seen, I've seen a lot of people that, for the most part, I thought were really, really open-minded people and really wanted to see the creature or see some type of phenomenon. And at some point in time, they tipped their hand to me, and I thought, you know what? They don't have as open of, their mind's not as open as I thought it was. I'm not saying they were acting, but a lot of people maybe grow bitter because they don't. I mean, let's just be honest. A lot of people think, I want to be an investigator. I'm going out and I'm on my first experience, and bam, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be on YouTube, national TV. It doesn't work like that. And I think a lot of people grow bitter and don't realize what you're doing. And before they know it, they've not necessarily, as far as they're concerned, they haven't closed their mind to all possibilities. And like you were saying about opening doors, I think they've closed a lot of doors and don't realize it. And they get to a point, and you have to, you step back and you see so many people over the years, you can kind of spot them, and you think, well, you're doing everything right, but really deep down, you don't really want to have this experience as bad as you thought you did. I've seen that a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of people that went with me places, and went for a couple of years, and then, I'm not going to be lucky. And I don't think it's luck. I think you just got to keep your mind open. And some people want to call it luck. I just don't call it luck. I just think some people get bitter and think their mind is open to all possibilities, but in reality, it's not.
So how do we convince the other part of this community, the non-believers, the skeptics, the people who believe that there is really no other type of research besides that hardcore scientific research about some of the things we've talked about tonight? Is it worth trying to convince them?
Oh, of course it's worth trying. I don't know if we'll ever be able to do it or not. The other question, but I never give up. I don't. If I could take a group of 30 people, and in a 2-year period, if I could convince one person to just get one little piece of evidence to where they would keep really striving to get some type of proof, and the other 29 out of the 30 dropped out, it's still worth it to me. And you have people like that. Some of my favorite people are diehard skeptics, just, oh, no, but I'm going to go and I'm going to check this out and I'm going to go with you, blah, blah, blah. And they have that one little moment. And it's something, and lots of times it's something that I've heard or seen or looked at or noticed before, but they were willing to go and do, but in the back of their mind, and you knew the whole time that they were thinking, this is never going to happen. I'm never going to find anything that's going to make me think this is real. And then something happens, and it's that one little thing, and you're sitting there watching them, and you go, yep. and that's it. And some of those are some of the best, hardest, most, go-at-it type investigators, and they might not ever have anything else happen to them, but you'll never hear them say again, I'm a skeptic. And to me, if you've got a diehard skeptic from the get-go that you can turn to where they're not a skeptic anymore, and they may not be a true believer, but they never give up, that's a win for me. I mean, I think that's a positive thing.
Let's get to some more questions here from our audience. This one coming in from Gail. In seeking Bigfoot, it seems the smartest thing would be to rid oneself of as much human scent as possible. Would it make any sense to rub nasty, woodsy stuff all over yourself? So in other words, Gail doesn't like getting dirt under her fingernails.
Dave, is this Gail from Facebook, by the way? Can I say that on there? Is this Gail from Facebook?
Absolutely.
Hey, Gail. Yeah, a lot of the researchers have went to the pheromone chips and stuff and have some promising results from that. It's just like hunting. I mean, anybody that spent any time in the woods, I mean, if you're a deer hunter, you use doe urine and stuff. Of course, you want to rid yourself. In my opinion, I've had better results. Like we said earlier, going in all natural, just like the Native American people. I mean, you don't want to go in with such and such cologne. I mean, yeah, you want to get back to nature and try to, go back to your roots and be part of the land. I mean, let's just be honest, whether it's interdimensional or not, you see people, I'm sure everybody's seen this. I mean, Sea City, they go out and they try to channel their energy and stuff, but you don't want to go out and build a huge bonfire and, be here again, the tree knocking. I mean, there's certain things you can and cannot do. Let's be honest. If you're out there banging on a tree, is a grizzly bear actually probably not going to come up and, take interest in you. So you need to go out and do the proper things to, I guess this goes back to what we were talking about, the predator situation. I mean, you want to blend in and kind of become part of the land, just like you would if you were hunting, even though you're not trying to kill this animal. I mean, you need to take the proper steps to, rid yourself of things that do not belong in the woods. It's going to increase your percentage of chance to see the creature, in my opinion.
Catherine has a question. She says, in places like Colorado, oftentimes throughout the night, you might hear the echoes of what sounds like a concert through the hills. Do we know if Sasquatch likes music or possibly likes to dance? Because if they're one with the First Nations, that's something that the First Nations take very seriously.
I would definitely say yes. Like you were saying, Native American people, ritual dances, of course. I mean, they've been around hundreds of years. I mean, they incorporate the Sasquatch into a lot of their dances, their totems. That's not by coincidence. Now, as far as music, I would say, I'll be honest, I've never had a positive or negative result with music. I have tried music before. I'm going to leave it at maybe I just didn't play the right music. But we all know that vibrations do attract animals and other things. Vibrations, music has been known to attract UFOs. I think that's definitely a positive. I wouldn't suggest going out and playing Guns N' Roses. I don't think you'll get any results with that.
Yes, it is perfect music for Sasquatch.
I would agree too. I just don't know the Sasquatch.
We are giant GNR fans around here. So I go for Appetite for Destruction, a little Paradise
there
City.
You go.
You're going to get them right there. You're going to get them right there. That's what I would try, and that's the truth. By the way, I do have my tickets for Vancouver for the reunion tour. Not in this lifetime, September 1st of this year. Excited about that. 8 times in the last 5 years that I've seen him, so I'm pretty stoked. I'm an addict, Jace.
That's awesome.
Not gonna lie.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. This leads to Eric's comment in the Spreaker chat room, and that is, there have been many reports out there that Sasquatch has watched Native Americans dancing during their ceremonies and festivals. Have you ever followed up with that?
Yeah, I have actually heard that, and there are some reports. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with orang pendek, the small man of the forest from Sumatra. There is a research station, and it's there's been several shows on cable where people there have talked about him, or it, she, however you want to describe it. There was I don't think it was a reunion party, but somebody was either leaving or coming to, I think they were leaving the research station to go back to England. And I don't remember what, it was some type of local tribal dance. And supposedly there was a pretty good, I didn't see the footage. I don't know if the footage ever made it to YouTube or anywhere else, but there was rumors of footage of some type of ceremonial dance there at this station in the rainforest of Sumatra where orang pendek was filmed just briefly. Don't know for sure if it was ever positively, verified or not. But, yeah, I have actually heard in Cherokee, North Carolina, a few times of some of the Native Americans there doing some ancestral dances and having several good experiences with Bigfoot appearing or being close in proximity to where this was going on. So, I mean, let's just be honest. The Native American people, like I said, if anybody knows what might attract and or what you need to do to, interact with the Bigfoot, they're the key. I mean, now whether they're going to tell everybody exactly what to do, because, I mean, let's just be honest, they don't trust a lot of researchers because, they have to make a buck, write that book. But I think a lot of the older Native Americans know exactly where to go and what to do, whether Bigfoot is a spiritual experience, interdimensional, or, a missing link type creature. They know what and where and how to attract it. I just don't think they're willing to part with that information because, let's just be honest, I mean, who knows who's going to go out there instead of just trying to take a glimpse or have that experience might, there's let's be honest, Smithsonian's got what, $1 million bounty. If you produce the body of Bigfoot, it's worth $1 million. And I mean, we know a lot of hunters out there that want $1 million. So they're not going to tell people, hey, by the way, go here, do this, you'll see it, because they don't want to see it shot because that's part of their ancestral heritage. That's Big Brother of the woods. I mean, they don't want to see that happen. You can't blame them.
You've started an entire Guns N' Roses run in here. Entire run here. And just so you know, in my studio here, I am staring at an actual album that I've never opened of Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. As well, and I know you don't have this, an actual bottle of Night Train booze.
I do not.
Mm-hmm. Only found in the hoods of California. Go in there in the daytime.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That was my birthday present from a couple of good friends of mine a couple of years ago.
That's awesome.
Yes. They brought 2 back. I drank one. Tastes like cough syrup. No wonder it's only $8 a bottle. But nonetheless. Nonetheless. We like our GNR around here, my friend. We like our GNR.
Oh, I do too.
Just people, do me a favor if you're listening. You know how Ron Bumblefoot THAL... I'm eating a bagel, by the way. I was hungry, Jeff. Trying to wolf it down. But Ron Bumblefoot THAL, our music guru around here, formerly of Guns N' Roses, don't mention GNR around him. He's kind of done with the whole Axl thing.
Done with that.
And I can tell you this, my friend. It's kind of weird to think that the man who does the music for our show, Bumblefoot, was replaced by Slash. Think about that for a second. Replaced by Slash in Slash's original band. Now that's irony at its best. Irony at its best. Jason, I'm just wasting a little bit of time here because we are literally about to go to break. And there it is. We are going to step on. We have 1 more hour left. Eric Markham, no insulting. the gift of Axl Rose on this show. I would appreciate that, preacher. Don't get my bad books. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio, Cryptid Talk, Paranormal Talk with Jason Sudbury, researcher out of Tennessee. Good dude, too. Make sure you add him on Facebook and join all his Facebook groups. He's into it. The real deal. Be right back.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Space Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Really do appreciate you taking your time to spend it with us on a nightly basis. Thank you so much. Tonight we have Jason Sudbury on. We're going to bring him on momentarily. Tomorrow night, though, on the program. And Preacher, you have to stop with the axle bashing. I'm getting all worked up here, man. Worked up. Anyways, you know, sometimes you just have to lay the law down in the chat rooms. Especially to the Preacher when he starts going. Anyhow, tomorrow night on the show, the Preacher and a few others will join me for the SOR Space Travelers SOR Paranormal Roundtable. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, right here at spacedoutradio.com. Hey, we want to welcome you in if you're listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. Corey Ruiz, don't you get started now. Leave Axel alone. This is an Axel-free zone. We are GNR fans here. Just don't tell Bumblefoot. Anyhow, United Public Radio Networks has us broadcasting in over 160 countries around the world. Thank you for being with us. We also are live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. I've seen Guns N' Roses there 6 times, just for the record. And Revolution Radio is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Pulchritudinous is your password. Pulchritudinous. I'd like to see you use it in a sentence if you wouldn't mind, but that is your password for the night. If you're an SOR Space Traveler, you know what to do with it. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher, RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live. Yes, we are everywhere. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. Jason Sudbury is with us. He's going the distance tonight, talking cryptids, talking paranormal, and we're going to mix the two up here. Jason, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, before we get going on to the paranormal side of the cryptid world, I've got a couple questions from Joyce. I always like to get my audience questions in. Joyce is asking, do you think that people with certain brain injuries could perceive what they are seeing to be paranormal instead of maybe the effects of the injury?
I think that's a possibility, but with all things dealing with the paranormal, if you research it long enough, you'll find this with a lot of the strange disappearances. Also, whether some are tied to Bigfoot, some are tied to alien abductions. Of course, some are just flat out accidents. You'll notice a large amount of some of these people that have these sightings, visitations, are mentally handicapped or have some type of disease, whether it's diabetes, heart disease, or cancer, or like I said, mentally handicapped. A lot of times this ties into it. You'll notice that really sometimes really smart people, I mean PhDs have these things happen to them. And then you have the people that are in the middle of the spectrum that don't have as many encounters. And you have people that are just, like I said, there's something going on physically with them. And some of them don't even know it. Don't even know at the time that they're afflicted with some type of disease or something, and they have a lot of sightings and a lot of encounters. It's the middle of the road people sometimes that are the people that want to investigate these things the hardest, but they don't ever see or have encounters. It's kind of strange. It's one end of the spectrum. It's the lower end to the higher end, and the middle range there sometimes doesn't have as much luck with it, and it's kind of strange. But if you research it enough, you kind of see a pattern, and it's kind of weird. You've got a guy that is a nuclear scientist, and he sees something. You have somebody here that has cerebral palsy that sees something, but you got average Joe Blow here that works 9 to 5 that never sees anything. And I think there's a pattern in that. There's something tying into that, and you can research it through the paranormal, through missing people. There's a pattern that emerges that I've seen, over the years, and it's always caught my attention. There's something to it, and I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but there's something to it, and a lot of other researchers have found it and seen it. But there's something going on. It's like something out there knows that these are, brilliant people that have something to give to society that they don't know, and these other interdimensional beings or entities know this. And then they look at these other people that are some type of handicap, and they pick that out, and it's like they look to the left and the right, but not in the middle. And I've just noticed that over the years, and it's always intrigued me.
So this goes to our second part of our question. What about brain trauma like concussions? Would that have any effect?
I think it could, but I don't think it has an effect to where that particular injury is causing them to maybe see something that's not there. I think that the actual injury is probably helping them see something that is there that they couldn't see beforehand. I think it's a positive. I think something positive's happening with it. I don't think it's where a lot of people say, they banged their head on a car windshield and they're just having visions. I don't think that's what it is. I think the bang on the head opened them up to some other type of consciousness where they're able, like empaths, you were talking about your wife, I think it opens their mind up. That knock on the head maybe allowed them to see something that, because we all know, if you really think about it, like I said earlier, you've had those instances where you've known something was going to happen, deja vu, whatever, but I think there's more to it. I think that I think it could be a positive. I think what they're seeing because of their injury is not a hallucination. I think it's something in reality that has opened their mind up to let them see something that normally they wouldn't see. So I think it's a positive type of feedback. I don't think it's a negative where people laugh at them and go, oh, you're just seeing things, you got a bump on the head. I don't think that's what it is, but the majority of doctors and scientists try to tell them that, and that's not the case. I really don't think that's the case. I think it's that opened them up to something that maybe regular people can't see. And I think that injury not necessarily happened. Maybe it didn't happen just for that reason, but I think that just opened that one little door for them to see something that regular people don't see. And I think it's a good thing. I think they need to embrace it, and not run from it and think, hey, I'm crazy and something's wrong with me. Look into it and try to explore a little bit, and don't run to a doctor and say, hey, I need a pill for this because I'm seeing things. Because what you're seeing in reality, because normal people on our plane of existence don't see it, doesn't mean it's not real. Now, that's my opinion.
Jason, Jason, Eric has a question for you, and he is asking,
okay,
what do you recommend for casting tracks among the newer materials?
I'll be honest with you, I use the same thing people have been using for years because I'm old school. I'm not up to date on any of the new materials. I'd use the same thing that I've always used, that I would assume that probably everybody's used since the late 70s. I know there's a lot of different composite materials and stuff like that out there. I'm not familiar with any of them. I haven't tried anything. I've stayed with the tried and true method. That's just me. I guess it's my old age and being a grandfather.
There's a lot of insults going on about Axl Rose right now. I'm getting frustrated here. A lot of frustration in the chat rooms right now. Oh, these people. Anything to just push my buttons. Leave Axl alone. Leave Axl alone. He hasn't been late for a show in like 5 years. Leave him alone. It's over. Get over it. They're back together. Anyhow, I'm good now. Jason, I want to get into another serious side of this topic. There are some researchers, like yourself, who are starting to look into the possibilities that there is some sort of tie-in between cryptid sightings like Sasquatch or Dogman or Mothman and the paranormal. What we all perceive as the paranormal about ghosts, spirits, demons. Tell me about your research into this and what you found so far.
Well, Dave, let me start with this. I was asked to speak about 3 months ago at a local community college, and this started off my discussion. Of course, we didn't have about 35 people there, but I was more than happy to have those folks there. And this is how I started off, and I want to just put this out there. And I want all the listeners to really listen to this. Is Bigfoot a spirit, a ghost, or an interdimensional being? Perhaps Bigfoot is an ancient earth spirit, like an elemental, and I know most of you are going to know what an elemental is. There are many reports of Bigfoot vanishing in the thin air like a spirit. The creature could possibly be from another dimension, observing our world. Some Native American elders regard Bigfoot as standing on the border between animal-style consciousness and human-style consciousness, which gives him a special kind of power. In Native American culture, unlike Western culture, animals are not regarded as inferior to humans, but rather as elder brothers and teachers of humans. Now, I hope everybody kind of takes that and kind of ponders it and thinks about it, and maybe later on in another one of your shows, some people may want to make a comment on it, but just think about that. And if you do think about it, I mean, that's a really, 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 good. I mean, if you think about it and you put some time into it, I know it plays back into the Native Americans, but I mean, that gives you several different options on what Bigfoot could be. And what if it all ties in together? I mean, what if he is standing on, like the edge of our world and another world? That doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% interdimensional, I don't guess. It could still be a flesh and blood creature here, but, I mean, it just opens up in my mind more possibilities of, do we really know what's going on? I mean, like you said earlier, there's doors, and you open one door, and there's another door, and another door, and another door. It boggles my mind, because deep down, I think somewhere in Native American culture, there's an answer. I think that they know. Bigfoot has been a part of their culture for so many years. I mean, no matter where you go, whether you're in British Columbia, whether you're in North Carolina, whether you're in Nevada, all the Native American cultures have even in the Himalayas, all of these ancient cultures have some type of Bigfoot creature. It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. So there's there's no way that back then that these cultures communicated like we do today. How did they know, and how could it be so similar to where there's not some type of reality in it? That's what's always, that's the question I pose to people. There's no way that these people had basically the same type of creature and had no ways of communications to where they're so similar that there's not something to it. There's got to be something to it. And I think people look away from that, especially mainstream science and stuff. They want to, we take the Egyptians and their culture to be, it's in the books. It is what it is. But they want to overlook the Native American people and say, well, they were, in lack of better words, they were smoking the peace pipe. Well, whatever they might have been smoking does not, that does not make it any different that people from here to there basically had the same creature in their myths and legends. And we all know myths and legends all have some type of base in reality. We all know that.
Do you think Bigfoot has the healing powers, much like a lot of people believe some spirits can heal?
I do. Yes, I do. I do. And like one of the questions earlier, I do think Bigfoot has the ability to bring, for lack of a better word, destruction and, bad things on certain people and certain happenings in our world to this day.
So, in the forest where Bigfoot is seen, have you tested then to see what paranormal activity is like?
I have, and I'll be honest, I have had mixed results. I do, from what I have seen over the years, I think that Bigfoot does tie into the paranormal, not just in a spiritual sense, but I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think Bigfoot has been probably a part of mankind way before the written record was established. There's no way to prove that, but there's too many cultures, too many, worlds apart around the globe that basically have the same outlook on it. I mean, the name may change, the description may change a little bit, but if you look at it from just any perspective, I mean, it basically, if you look at it with an open mind, it all ties into basically the same type of creature. And I just don't think that there's any way that this was just something that was made up, I guess is the best way to say it. It ties into these people all around the world over the years that basically had the same basic principle of this creature with minor, differences. And it's just so close to being the same that there's just got to be something to it. There just has to be something to it.
So do you believe then that at some point, whether it's on the other side, if Bigfoot is interdimensional, that these two the paranormal and the cryptids are in communication with each other?
I do. I think they are. I do. On some level, I do.
What kind of communication would they have together?
Best way to put this in words. I guess the easiest way. This may not be exactly the best way to explain it, but with ghosts, people are familiar with ghosts and spirits. Sometimes you have a dead loved one that has passed away, and right before something tragic happens or something, you get like a premonition or you get a visitation from that particular person. You hear people all the time, like I went to bed one night and right before I went to sleep, my dead father appeared to me and, didn't say anything, but just him being there. And then 2 hours later, I woke up and the house was on fire, but I got everybody out. I think it's the same thing, probably maybe with Bigfoot for certain people. I think, when you encounter him, I think there's something it's some type of warning or something to where he's basically trying to tell you something, and a lot of people probably dismiss it because, when you're out in the woods camping and you hear something, you come out of your tent at 2:00 in the morning and you see a big hairy creature, you're like, whatever, we had some whiskey around the campfire or something, or we told ghost stories. But if you look at it from the same perspective of if you were at home in suburban Chicago in your penthouse apartment, you saw a dead loved one, you would put a little more stock into that and think, why did I just see that? Am I going crazy or not? Something going on, and you may not sleep as well, and you wake up to the fire alarm. I think it ties in to, there has to be something paranormal connected to Bigfoot. I don't think he just, if it was just a flesh and blood creature, a Gigantopithecus, people would just see it and go on with it, but usually these people, something later on, several times in my investigations, you've had people that didn't realize at that point in time when they had a sighting, but later on something happened that was very, important in their life or something, and then they look back and they think, I had that sighting back a couple of months ago in the woods. Maybe that was a warning. And a lot of people, when you see a dead loved one, you take it more, I guess, to heart and pay attention to it. But if you're out in the woods camping, you just kind of write it off, like, I didn't see a Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't exist. Well, a lot of people say ghosts don't exist, but yet you put stock in that. I think people need to wake up and open their eyes to, they're seeing Bigfoot for a particular purpose, and it's related to the paranormal, just like a ghost sighting. Now, that's my opinion. A lot of people say, how can you say that? But, how can you, a lot of people can't prove that ghosts exist. I'm not saying they do or they don't, but if you can believe in that at home, why can't you believe in seeing something in the woods that's just as important?
Question from Eric. He is saying, I wonder if early man and Sasquatch ever combined forces to migrate here back in the days when the Bering Strait was a land bridge. What's your thoughts on that?
I would say it's a definite possibility. My thoughts and opinion on him being interdimensional doesn't mean I'm right. It could be just the missing link, Gigantopithecus, Neanderthal. We all know of that. Yeah, it's a possibility, no doubt.
But that would then lead that if we're talking Gigantopithecus, that would pretty much erase any type of
paranormal.
Yeah, the paranormal or anything along the supernatural line.
Well, it could, but like I said, the interdimensional paranormal link that I think, that I believe in, who's to say I'm right? There's I have no evidence to provide to say, hey, I can prove this is an interdimensional creature with, ties to the paranormal. It's just like people that say that it is Gigantopithecus and it's a missing link can't actually prove. We all know Gigantopithecus existed, there's no doubt. But if you look at what people have as far as evidence to prove Gigantopithecus is Bigfoot, if you look at the evidence really hard, it leans more towards that not being true and Bigfoot being a paranormal type creature. In my opinion, and what I've seen over the years, I lean more towards the paranormal side. I don't think that has anything to do with humans and the missing link or an unidentified ape species, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Are there more haunted places around where Bigfoot is trouncing through the woods? Or is it just coincidental because many people believe that there are spirits everywhere? And the reason why I ask that, Jason, in my area, I live on what they call the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. Okay, and in the Gold Rush Trail back in the 1800s, I mean, it started down in California, worked its way all the way up to the Klondike. Literally, if I look out my window less than a mile away, that's where the original trail was. It's haunted as anything. Do you believe that there is some sort of tie between the history then of where people wandered, where Sasquatch is hanging out now, because of maybe the spiritual energy? Or do you think because spirits are everywhere that it's very easy for Sasquatch and the paranormal to integrate?
No, I think there's definitely hot spots. I really think that if you look at the evidence, more Bigfoot sightings are centered around paranormal hotspots, UFO landing sites. Now, granted, I mean, you do have people, you know, like Vancouver Island. I mean, as far as I know, there's not a whole lot of paranormal hotspots there. Or I think there have been some UFO sightings, but I tend to believe, just like with spirits, I think spirits need portals. I think they need, for the lack of a better word, energy zones or a place to enter our dimension. I mean, yes, spirits are all around us, but I think there are certain spots. I mean, it's just like if you look at the names of certain places, you have like, you know, well, the Bermuda Triangle, you have the Devil's Nest, the Devil's Loop, all these certain words that describe certain spots. If you look back through history, you'll have UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, ghost sightings. They usually have some type of, you know, name tied to them that go back through history, and a lot of people don't realize that. But I think there are better spots to have sightings of certain things in the paranormal field, including Bigfoot, than just say spot A over here on the map. I think there are hot spots, and I think that those are the best spots, even for just regular people, even skeptical people. I think if you're going to have a sighting, I think there are certain spots that are better to go to have an experience than others.
So when you are going out into the forest then to look for Bigfoot, are you also bringing paranormal equipment with you?
Yes, I have. Like I said, I've had mixed results with that. I guess probably one of the best places was in the San Luis Valley. I had a very, 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 very good experience at the Great Sand Dunes Monument with some paranormal equipment and a Bigfoot sighting, to where I didn't want to get out much after that. It was a visual sighting, and I won't say it was like a pixelation sighting like you had. It was an actual, more of a shadow type sighting, and we had some EVP readings that were kind of weird. And, of course, I've had people say, well, you know, you were there and there's been magnetic anomalies there and this, that, and the other. And someone had mentioned earlier about Reelfoot Lake. We did have a very strange incident in 2011 at the New Madrid. Of course, Reelfoot was formed by the New Madrid Fault when the earthquake hit in 1811. But there's been several sightings in New Madrid, Missouri, of strange lights, and people say, oh, it's the fault line. You know, they have sightings, it's swamp gas and blah, blah, blah. But had a pretty good, I actually didn't see it, but I was within about 3 miles of a couple that did see it, and they were from out of town. I think they were from Minnesota. and they had a very, very, very strange sighting, and I did see the video of a very definite big shape shadow, for lack of better terms, of a gorilla type something and honest to God, crawling out of the fault line after a big green ball of light. And it was probably one of the strangest things I've ever seen. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the video, and I do not know, I cannot remember for the life of me the couple's name, but that was probably one of my strangest paranormal / Bigfoot encounters I've ever seen. And I mean, these people, we were there with them for about 3 days, and there's just no way when this happened that they could have, back then faked this footage. And it was really, really creepy, really, really strange, which tied in, like I said, the fault line, a light, and a Bigfoot sighting. It was, to this day, what I'm talking about it right now, it still kind of creeps me out.
Joyce has a question. She says, do you think Hollywood has played a part in creating the image people have in their mind of Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, and other paranormal entities to add fear and surprise to an image set in the mind? And that could be a recipe for a lot of this misjudgment?
I think that Hollywood has probably borrowed from reality. I think that Hollywood has more ties to the military and, I guess, classified information or actual, maybe real-time information. And I think it's, in my opinion, probably part of I hate to use the word indoctrination period, but I think Hollywood has a glimpse into things that most normal people don't. And I think, yes, they have shaped our mind and perception on certain things, but I think that has a lot of basis in fact and reality.
I'm a firm believer that Hollywood, especially over the last number of years, where they portrayed a lot of these creatures and aliens as a very demonic or negative type being, I tend to think that they are luring people that way so that they continue to be afraid and maybe not ask those questions that are out there, Jason. Because a lot of people...
Totally agree.
Yeah. A lot of people out there, Jason, when I bring up aliens on this show, immediately the negativity comes out. The negativity of the bad experiences that, I'm so sick and tired of hearing the term anal probe, But it's out there, and that's a stigma with it. Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a matter of time before something like Bigfoot gets into an A-class type movie. It'll be a horror movie, not a Harry and the Hendersons, but a horror movie where it's going to be ripping people apart and terrorizing probably a group of teenage campers. Hell, maybe we're writing a good flick here. We better shut up about this. But you understand where I'm going with that. Hollywood seems to take this fringe and without researching it, blow it out of proportion. Or even if they do research it, like they did with Fire in the Sky, they changed what Travis Walton went through.
Yeah.
In order to suit their fancy. So, do you think then that they are trying some sort of Hollywood-type manipulation to get their point across in regards to the cryptids?
I would say so. I mean, even if you look back to the legend of Boggy Creek, I'm sure most people are familiar with that. In Fylth, Arkansas, they had a lot of sightings stuff. Even that, of course, it was a late 70s or mid 70s documentary style film. I mean, even back then, they took it and took the facts and they twisted and bent them so bad. But a lot of people didn't really know about the situation, so they took it as 100% reality. And if you go back and research it and actually, find out what actually happened, they bent it and twisted it so far, like you're saying, like with the teenage campers out in the woods. I mean, they took a lot of factual information and they turned it around so bad. Even though it was still based in reality, they basically just ruined the whole the whole situation for serious researchers. Now, if you go back and actually read the book on it, you can actually get something out of it. If you watch, and I tell people, read the book, then watch the film. Don't watch the film, read the book. If you watch the film, you won't want to read the book. When you get to page 13, you're going to quit. I think they do more harm than good, but I do think there's some truth in it. But I think there is probably, there's an ulterior motive. I think there's, not to get into crazy government conspiracy stuff, but I do think there's somebody pulling strings to where they're doing certain things with true stories in Hollywood and twisting them so bad for an ulterior motive. I do think, like I said, Fire in the Sky. I mean, if anybody knows anything about Travis Walton's story and then you watch the movie, I mean, it's far-fetched. I mean, they really, really twisted things.
Yes, they did. They ruined it for a lot of people, especially those who are having the quality experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Changing topics here, Tripp has a good question about Bigfoot that he'd like asked. He says, Jason, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot following migration patterns and harvesting?
Well, if you would assume, even if it's an interdimensional creature, which it may not be, like I said, that's my thought on it. But here again, if it's, you have to have a breeding population, period, in discussion. You have to have food, you have to have water, assuming that even if it comes through a portal, it has to have some type of means to survive here when it's on our plane of existence. So, I mean, like I said earlier, if you look at the statistics, Bigfoot is seen mostly around places, and if I may be wrong, but I think it's have anywhere from 4, I know, what was it? Can't remember exactly the number, but even an interdimensional creature has to have food, water, stuff for survivability. So, I mean, if you follow it, like I said, through the middle of the United States, through Nevada and stuff like that, there's a dead spot. Then you've got stuff going to the East Coast and the West Coast and then up north. So, I mean, you've got to, even an alien on a spaceship coming from Mars or wherever it's coming from, I mean, they still have to eat, breathe. There's certain things that they have to do. Anything that's a living organism has to do certain things to survive. We all know that. So, I mean, yeah, you can trace it. There are supposedly tracks of, you can tell where they're going from point A to point B, just like early human man did, just like we did. If we weren't civilized like we were, we would have to, migrate and move certain places at different times of the year to survive. So, I mean, that's still a feasible option.
In your area of Tennessee, let's get back into the ghost hunting here. How haunted is it down there?
I guess our claim to fame is probably Adams, Tennessee with the Bell Witch.
Yes.
And everybody's probably seen the movie and read the books. I've actually been there several times, and a good friend of mine that is the owner of Paranormal Enthusiast on Facebook, Bill Payne. Bill is probably the most authoritative person on the Bell Witch I've ever met. He's been there many times. I've been there 2 times, and I can tell you, I've actually never had any evidence of paranormal activity in the supposed cave where everybody thinks haunted, but in some of the cottages that you can rent, I have had some pretty good EVP experiences, and Bill has some very extreme evidence, and I suggest anyone that's interested in ghosts and stuff like that, get on Facebook. It's p.e.enthusiast. Bill Payne has done research for the past 25 years. The Bell Witch in Adams, Tennessee is a hot spot to this day. I can promise you, if you're looking for probably some of the easiest paranormal evidence to obtain, take a trip to Adams, Tennessee. Stay in some of the cottages there, and I guarantee you will not be disappointed. That's probably our hot spot here in Tennessee. People come from all over the world. It's pretty spooky, I can tell you that.
Explain to people who may not have heard about the Bell Witch what this legend is all about.
Well, I'm not actually sure. Hang on just a second. Let me pull this out of my file here because I'm not sure on the date on it. The Bell Witch, and a lot of people, if you research it on Google, they're going to say that it was just actually a trick from the two daughters for attention. John Bell was an actual prominent member of the community there in Adams, Tennessee. If you'll give me just a second, Dave, let me pull this up so I can give you an accurate date because I don't want to give people the wrong information here.
Not a problem.
This was back at a time when I may not be able to pull it up. My power just flickered. I don't know what that's about. Is that paranormal?
Couldn't be the weather, could it? Couldn't be an electrical surge, car accident, or anything like that.
I don't know. We've had pretty good weather here lately. I don't know what that's. I don't know. I don't believe in coincidence, though. Do you?
Well, you never know. Strange things do happen sometimes around this show.
That's really weird.
It's just disappeared. Well, let's move on here. I've never heard of the Flatwoods Monster.
Oh, what? Dave. Seriously?
Hey, we're a little sheltered up here in the north.
No, actually, don't feel bad. A lot of people hadn't, actually. Flatwoods, West Virginia. I think it was, don't quote me on this, between 1952 and 1957, I believe. Small community. Not very high up on the food chain. Probably kind of considered an impoverished community. 4 or 5 young kids saw a light. Told their parents. The parents kind of dismissed it. There was a young gentleman, I think at the time, about 22 years old, I don't remember his name, was in the National Guard at the time. The kids come down and told him. He actually looked up and saw some unusual activity at the top of a hill. Got a couple more adults there in the community to go up and investigate. When they got to the top of the hill, there was a fog, some type of fog mist, and they proceeded to continue looking, and suddenly a creature, half reptilian, kind of green in color, and listeners, please don't laugh. If you're familiar with this, you'll know this, didn't have any legs, but was in a type of small UFO with no top on it, no legs, was floating and had the smell of sulfur, and proceeded to pursue them down the hill. The young man that was in the National Guard and a couple of the adults called the local authorities, and of course, when the authorities got there and went up to investigate, there was nothing there. There was a bright light seen leaving the vicinity, and that is basically the story of the Flatwoods Monster. And supposedly, after that, several people had seen bright lights in the sky. Okay, here's my Bell Witch. There we go. Yeah, it was 1817 to 1821 on the Bell Witch. This was the time when a lot of people were into seances and stuff like that. John Bell had moved his family from North Carolina to the Red River Bottomland in Robertson County, Tennessee, and which became Adams, Tennessee later on. The Bells had 3 children after moving to Tennessee: Elizabeth, Richard, and Betsy. And Elizabeth and Betsy were the 2 daughters that all this started. In 1817, John Bell was inspecting a cornfield when he encountered a strange-looking animal sitting in the middle of the corn row, which doesn't actually go into detail of what the animal actually looked like. Some people say it looked like it had the body of a dog with the head of a rabbit, and he shot at it several times. The animal vanished. Here again, that plays into what? Bigfoot sightings and Bigfoot vanishings. The evening, I believe it was the evening after that, the Bell family started hearing a beating sound from outside the house, and the sounds continued to increase in frequency night after night. Of course, the daughters were accused of witchcraft, so forth and so on. A lot of people said that they were just doing it for attention. A lot of people said they were not. I think some of the local reverends and pastors from the churches were there, and supposedly the girls levitated and some other things happened. Now, how this tied into the cave, a lot of people don't know, but supposedly the cave there in Adams is supposedly the hot spot, which the cabins are actually that you can rent are actually on the old Bell Farm property. And people have come from far and wide over the years and have experienced quite a few things. And like I said, I've actually been at one of them, and we actually left one night. There were 6 of us, and we left and went somewhere else. So beds have been known to levitate. It's probably, I think it's registered like number 5 or 6 in the United States of paranormal hotspots. So, I mean, to this day, it's President Andrew Jackson actually took an interest in it and visited several times when he was president and after he was president. So apparently, I mean, it got some major interest from, for some major people over the years.
This legend still continues today because a lot of people have made this farm a very high tourist attraction to much the chagrin of the current owners. Am I right?
That is correct. That is correct. I mean, they've put up with a lot over the years. And like I said earlier, I mean, Bill has been doing this for years, and Bill still considers it one of his top 3 hot spots. I think he goes back about every other year. He's posted a lot of EVP evidence over the years in some of his groups, and some of it's real compelling.
Gail has an interesting question, kind of off topic, getting back to the Bigfoot stuff. She says, I have a theory. Bigfoot is an enslaved entity to other off-worlders who serve their scientific needs by gathering items to experiment on. Do you think this is possible, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's totally possible, actually. Yeah. I really do. I mean, that would be, I see no evidence to suggest otherwise. I mean, I think it's a doggone good possibility, actually.
Have you, down in Tennessee, continuing on this for a second, heard of a lot of reports of Bigfoot sightings followed by UFO sightings?
A bunch. Actually, most of them, most of the Bigfoot sightings that we've had here in Tennessee probably correlate to UFO sightings. Believe it or not, and some people are going to laugh at this, but we actually had a UFO sighting over the Memphis International Airport in, I think it was 2012, and actually had 2 Bigfoot sightings outside of Arlington, Tennessee, which is not totally what I would call the city. I mean, there's still a lot of unexplored, uncharted woods in that area, but if you live here, you would probably, a lot of people laughed at it, but it actually made the local news around here. So that was really kind of strange as far as I'm concerned being that close to Memphis, which Memphis is a pretty good sized city, and Arlington's probably 20 miles outside of Memphis, and one of them was actually at a golf course there in Arlington. So, I mean, some people laugh at it, but it was an unnamed supposed, and this was on WRAG, an unnamed supposed doctor that worked at, I think, the Med in Memphis, which you would assume a doctor that worked at, the major trauma center would not be making up a sighting about Bigfoot.
How is the UFO phenomena going there?
We actually have quite a few, and we have several sightings. Of course, I'm about 300 miles from Oak Ridge, and I'm sure the listeners are familiar with Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is a big Department of Energy place and helped make the first atomic bombs and still to this day has a lot to do with the nuclear program. and we have quite a few sightings over Oak Ridge, and some of them are a little bit far-fetched, but we've had several in the past 3 or 4 years that actually supposedly had radar sightings. Of course, I haven't seen the tapes, but anything that's reported out of Oak Ridge, you would assume has come from credible sources because, I mean, it is a Department of Energy town, and I won't mention names, but my second wife her father is still working for the Department of Energy, and he's told me some pretty convincing stuff. And I mean, this is a guy that, worked at Y12, and as far as I know, still works at Y12. So I just don't think he would make up stuff like this. And it's pretty weird stuff goes on in Oak Ridge, I can tell you that. They've actually had a few Bigfoot sightings in the past 3 or 4 years at Oak Ridge, too, which is kind of strange. You have a lot of, if you look at things, Bigfoot's been sighted, I think, several times at maybe some of the test sites in Nevada, which a lot of people don't know, but Bigfoot ties into a lot of the Department of Energy testing sites. Now, whether that has to do with actual testing or what they've done in the past or what they're doing now, but, you have a lot of people say that portals are open when they test atomic weapons, which they didn't test any in Oak Ridge, but when they're doing tests on the material and stuff, I mean, who knows what could happen when you're dealing with stuff like that. I mean, it's possibilities are open.
I've heard of UFOs around and having a keen interest on nuclear testing plants or nuclear power plants or testing sites, but I didn't know there was Bigfoot sightings around them either.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, they're very hard to confirm. Of course, everything out of Oak Ridge can kind of be hard to confirm, but as a matter of fact, hold on just a second, and I can that's another one for you here. Got something from the 70s that might interest the listeners. Throughout the 70s, there were a lot of credible reports from the Palmdale, Lancaster area and the Mojave Desert. One of the key interests was actually reported around Edwards Air Force Base. Of course, that's not the nuclear base, but several military personnel reported they had watched Sasquatches walk through the base at night through starlight scopes, and this activity was quickly classified by the military. The personnel reported, reported this, did so anonymously, and further stated these animals were not reported to the public in order to avoid embarrassment on the government's behalf, since they could not explain what these creatures were. And that was reported to me through a credible source that I will not name, and that is documented with a signed and sealed signature here. But, I put stock in where it comes from. This guy retired of the military, I think 32 years of service. So I would say it probably happened.
That's incredible. We're running out of time here. I do want to shift your thoughts on to Mothman. Now, of course, everybody has heard the Mothman prophecy, Silver Bridge collapsing in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I got to get out there. I'm trying to head over to see some friends in Pittsburgh, which is right on the border of West Virginia, pretty much. I got to get out there and check this out.
You've got to see the Mothman Festival. You've got to check it out.
I would like to. You know what, though? I'm a little disappointed with them, though. I got to tell you, Jay, we have tried to book someone from that festival onto this show probably half a dozen times, and we haven't as much got an email back from them. It's weird. Usually we get emails from everybody.
Right.
Just one of those things. We just haven't been able to crack into that area yet. We've tried a plethora of times. It just hasn't worked. But we'll get there.
Well, I may be able to help you out, Dave. Give me your day or two, and let me see if I can't put you in touch with somebody that might be as you would say, a plethora of information for you on Mothman in general, somebody that is kin to some of the original witnesses.
For sure. I would love to have that. Absolutely love to have someone on like that. But quickly, we only got a couple minutes. Do you think the Mothman was just legend, or do you believe that this spiritual entity, demonic or not, really had something to do with the collapse of the bridge?
I do not think that it had anything to do with the collapse of the bridge. I think it was there to warn people. I think if anybody's familiar with John Keel and his amazing investigations and writings, I think that it was a harbinger, quote unquote. I think these are his words, a harbinger of, I'm here to warn you. I think it was a warning. Mothman has been seen other places. Flying humanoids have been seen other places over the years. I don't think it was an evil demonic entity. After all my research, I really don't. There was a lot tied in. There were Mothman sightings, Bigfoot sightings, UFO sightings, all tied in with everything that was going on in Point Pleasant. Personally, I think it was probably, here again, some type of, I know I'm wearing this term out tonight, but I'm still leaning towards some type of interdimensional being that was there to warn people. I think the warning was probably not recognized at the time. That's just what I've been to Point Pleasant 3 times, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I think it was there as a warning, and people just didn't realize it. A lot of people are going to say, no way, the entity caused the bridge collapse. I don't think that's true. John Keel in his book, when he first really started realizing what was going on, they were thinking maybe the power plant was going to blow up and then the bridge fell. But there's a lot more going on. And here again, the Native American legends tie in. The Chief Cornstalk, if the listeners aren't familiar, look into the Mothman prophecies. The Chief Cornstalk hunting grounds in the TNT area. There's a lot of Native American history there. And there were a couple of pilots on the Ohio and Miami River that literally went up looking a couple of nights for the Mothman entity and didn't see it while flying, but after they landed at Gallipolis, and if I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, Ohio Airport, had a major sighting, really close, and these were, I think at the time, not only pilots, one of them was a doctor and one of them was a lawyer, and they were real stand-up people, and they saw what they saw very close up and described it, I think, and I'm not mistaken, I think John Keel talked about it a little bit in his book, but there are some other documents on the internet, and they've been verified over the years that what they saw was not just Mothman, but there was something that actually, and I don't know if everybody's familiar with USOs, which are unidentified submerged objects. There was something that come out of the Ohio or the Miami River and was a lighted object and had small stature people on it and ties back into Mothman, UFOs, and the Bigfoot situation. Very, very, very complicated. Right. Don't just read the Mothman prophecies and let it go at that. Do a little more research. There was a lot going on back there, I think, in 67, a whole lot.
Absolutely. And my friend, we've come to the end of the night. Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight, Jason.
Thank you, Dave. Always an honor, man. I'm glad the show's doing great, brother.
Absolutely. You hold on. I'm going to wrap things up. If you're on the Spaced Out Radio side, you're hearing Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rock us out. He brings us home every single night on this show. Tomorrow night, the SOR Roundtable. Be with us. Midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific, spacedoutradio.com. Good to have you with us for this ride tonight. I will talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. I hope you're all here. Thanks again for everyone tuning in. Your questions, your comments, your snarking on Twitter. Love it. Keep it up. Way to be a part of this. Thank you so much for making this special. Do me a favor. Tell a friend. We're out. Bumblefoot, take us home.